Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Trustees meeting for February 10th, 2026. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Karsbeck.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Hardy.
Here.
Trustee Albrecht.
Here.
Trustee Wing.
Here.
Trustee Ayers.
Here.
Trustee Brody.
Here. Excellent. We have a full board tonight. Next on our agenda is citizen participation. This is for topics not on the meeting agenda and topics that will not be considered at a public hearing, which we will have some later tonight. Right now we have Dave Mellinson. Welcome. And Mr. Mellinson, I know you know the drill. If you could come to the front, please state your name and address. If possible, keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming out.
We'll try my best, sir. Dave Melanson, 1312 Gateway Park Drive, Berthoud. I was at the meeting about a month ago, and I just want to say you are all champion meeting attenders because I think that meeting went in excess of 4 hours. But I wanted to address some of the issues that came up because it's not, something that can go back and forth. I just wanted to reemphasize that I don't think most folks are worried about the view shed in the Old Town corridor. I don't think there's too much concern either about the staff. I think the staff does an excellent job, and I think there's good feelings about that. One of the things that came up is, well, it's too bad this wasn't addressed earlier in, I think it was 2018 when zoning was considered. The point is, in some of these cases, there is a zoning change proposed. So if there's a zoning change proposed, that's why it never came up before in zoning. Also, it was mentioned if a purchaser has the right to develop a parcel per the zoning. Yes. But again, if they're looking for a zoning change, that's a whole different animal. Second, it was talked about if they have purchased the site. I would just note that in most development, a site is not purchased. In most development, the site is optioned. And that's at-risk money. The developer knows that. These are big boys and girls. They play in large figures all the time. And they understand that what they're doing is putting out risk money on the basis that maybe it'll make and maybe it won't. And then I would just like to reemphasize that with a $8 to $9 million arboretum and 1,500 signatures, we would really love to see the board do some public outreach and move on the concept of a view easement. Thank you very much. Y'all take care, and I do pray that your meeting today will not go 4+ hours.
Thank you, Mr. Melanson. We have no one else signed up, so we'll move on now to consent. Would trustees like anything removed from consent? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve?
I would like the item number C removed. Just done a quick question.
Okay. Is there anything else trustees would like removed?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd actually like to ask you to pull item D just so I could address something briefly about that as
Okay.
well.
Let's do, we'll pull C and D. Anything else? All right. Is there a motion to approve consent with options A and B, or I'm sorry, with items A and B?
I'll make a motion to approve consent items A and B.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. Trustee Wing has moved on consent. Trustee Hardy has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Trustee Ayers.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Abstain.
Trustee Albrecht.
Yes.
Trustee Brody.
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. All right. Items removed from consent will be considered next on the agenda. So we'll start with item C. Trustee Wing.
Yeah, just very quickly. So that's the lift stations, and I just had a question on it. I think the final report comes to us, I believe, in May or June. And my question is just these lift stations, as it's proposed, they may combine them, et cetera, et cetera. And I would think that would cost potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions. And I was just wondering where the funding comes from for that type of work.
So our utilities director, Ken Matthews, is in the audience, and he may ask some clarifying questions of you, but I'll let him address that or Savannah, if that's more appropriate.
So
Ken,
Did you hear the question? Okay. Okay.
Ken, would you mind coming up to the podium?
Yeah, just for the microphone. Thank you.
I'll be able to hear you.
Okay. So the question was funding for the project and an estimated construction cost was funded for this year in Fund 23. I can't tell you what that number is off the top of my head.
The GL code, you mean?
So before they do all the work and tell us what they need to do, we actually set aside like an estimate, some funds for that.
That's correct, because the situation is pretty dire in one of these lift stations
Yep.
and needs attention immediately.
And I won't hold you to this, and I won't come back to you on this, but if you were can you give me a parameter, just windows on what you would estimate? And I know there's some pretty significant different things that might happen, but I was just wondering, ballpark wise, what you think.
Yeah, it could easily exceed $1.5 million.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ken.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. Well, while we're here, do you want to do item D, Administrator Kirk?
Sure. The fireworks contract in front of you, I will point out, because it is unique, because of the 250th anniversary of the signing of Declaration of Independence, we thought it would be appropriate to add a little bit to our show this year. So I did want to point that out. I think it'll be a great show. There is also an indemnity clause in that contract that we didn't catch in the transition with attorneys. We'd like you to approve this contract subject to the removal of that clause and approval of our new town attorney, Catherine Sellers, if you'd be so inclined to make that motion.
Subject to the removal of the indemnity clause.
Yep.
All right, trustees, any questions?
No.
So let's just do C by itself. Yeah. So is there a motion to approve the wastewater lift station professional services agreement?
I'd make a motion to approve
Thank
the
you.
wastewater item C.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right, Trustee Wing has moved on item C. Trustee Hardy has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Trustee Brody,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Ayers,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. And finally, item D, is there a motion to approve the fireworks contract subject to the removal of the indemnity clause and with the approval of our new town attorney?
So moved.
No, thank you.
Second.
All right, Trustee Ayers has moved on the fireworks contract. Trustee Wing has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Ayers,
Yes.
Trustee Brody,
Yes.
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Excellent. We can now move on to number 2 on our agenda, and this is a water snapshot presentation. I think, is this also Ken or Administrator Kirk? I think this is Ken, yeah. Welcome back, Ken. Should say our Director of Water Utilities, Ken Matthews.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Thank you. I also have with me here Alex Tennant. Alex is, he was hired last year. He's our Water Resources Administrator. He basically manages our water portfolio and works with Pete. Everybody knows Pete and Andrew, our consultant, on planning and administering all of these components of what is a pretty complicated deal. So today we're kind of bring to you what has become a biannual briefing on our part with respect to water resources. The Bertha has done a pretty good job of planning for water resources.
Director Matthews, if you could hold on real quick, Clerk, could we get these on our screens too? Thank you. Thank you.
For many years. The most recent methodology that we've been using started in 2020 with a water resources master plan that was updated again in 23. We're in the process of an update again for 2026. Last year, we proceeded to begin biannual, and we call them snapshots. And the main thing that was driving this is what water has the town committed to through existing customers and new developments, and what is our water portfolio doing, and how are those two balancing, and making sure that we're staying safe. So that's the concept, and that's what we're here today to talk to you about. Some other resources that kind of factor into this are the a document that was produced last year that took a hard look at our non-potable non-potable water use, and that's the water that's not treated that is applied for irrigation throughout town, which is, of course, as you can imagine, critical to the decisions that we're making. The other thing that I want to make note of is we've, in addition to this reworking or revisiting the master plan this year, Alex is working with LRE to kind of produce a new model. Our water portfolio is complicated, and it's getting more and more complicated every time we buy, share, or we look for another source of water. And so we're putting it in a different format. It's called Gold Sim. That's the software that this is being modeled on. Alex, you want to kind of run us through what that means?
Thanks, Ken. Again, I'm Alex Tennant. I was hired in April of last year, so getting to know the water portfolio pretty well. Still learning, but as I've worked with LRE and learned this portfolio over the last 8 or 10 months, we've gone from a historically kind of clunky Excel model and looking at our system supplies, and now we're actually working into GoldSim as Ken mentioned, and you can kind of see slide is intentionally small. This is a very high level overview and a draft of the matrix that kind of combines all the supplies and demands of our GoldSim model. So this is something that's going to have a nice interface for us users as staff, be able to look at inputs, look at different projections for growth rates, how to prioritize our different supplies to meet demands, and then also evaluate new supplies and provide ability to run scenario gaps for that Berthoud could face in the short term and the long term. So just wanted to give you all a pretty quick look at this and kind of get an idea of what we're working on for our portfolio and how we're going to be able to move forward and look at challenges that Berthoud will face in the future. The next piece, or really the beginning of our water supply analysis in the snapshot, is looking at the water supplies themselves. The two base supplies are decree water and the 1,088 CBT units. That's the base supply for year-round treatment. It can also be the CBT units can also be applied for non-pot if needed. In past snapshots, and I believe you've seen this table before, or most of you have, we had about 40.33 handy ditch shares. I just wanted to include shares that we've acquired through purchase as well as dedication in the last 12 months. So we're up to about 50, just over 50, almost 51 handy shares. One thing I also wanted to point out is the asterisk you can see there for the handy shares in Ryan Gulch. That's showing what's currently treatable. We have, there will be more in the future, but most of that comes via change case. We have, we're in the process of a couple of these change cases and have a few more that are going to be on the horizon. So we're getting there, but this is what's currently treatable. And then lastly, with this slide, the most important piece is our 10 windy gap units. Looking at the different colors at the bottom of the table there, you can see that there's a pretty big difference between what we show as a dry year zero yield, and then up to our full yield, which is about 950 acre feet. So you can see that that's a big shift in how much is available for treatment and what we can look forward to in the coming years as well as down the road in 5 or 10 years. With the windy gap units, the town has invested a lot of time and resources and funds into to try to get these units firmed, as the board well knows. And so I wanted to provide an opportunity for Bradley, should be online. I think he is Christian, and he can talk about our most recent 3206 case, 22-CW 3206 case, which is a Milliken Reservoir junior storage case, as well as some others that we have completed and we're going to be getting into. So go ahead and take it away, Bradley.
Sure thing. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Ken. Good evening, Mayor Karspeck and trustees. I'll just quickly run through what we've been accomplishing in the water court over the past year or so, which connects back to the summary that Alex just provided there. First off, the Ryan Gulch change case that connects to the Ryan Gulch water that was just shown on that spreadsheet. This was a change case, case number 21 CW 3023. Happy to report that we have a final decree in this case now that was entered by the court in July of 2025. So this case is now concluded. The town changed 34 shares of the Ryan Gulch Reservoir Company in this case to include new types of use and places of use so that it can be used, or these shares can be used for all municipal uses within Berthoud service area. That case approved an average annual consumptive use for the town at just short of 150 acre feet a year. I think it was about 148 acre feet a year. I believe the zero number that was on Alex's spreadsheet there is relates to the current arrangement. Currently, these shares are leased back to the Handy Ditch Company. The term of that lease is a 5-year lease. I think that runs through 2028, so a few years left on that. We will, of course, have the chance to evaluate the future plan as that lease term gets closer to its running to its end. We can discuss at a future time a potential arrangement to extend that lease or bring that water into the town system. There are some return flow requirements in that decree that we would need to address. As the board might know, we've worked closely over the past few years with some of Berthoud's regional neighbors in a return flow sharing arrangement that is cooperative between the town, City of Loveland, Little Thompson Water District, and perhaps one or two other regional neighbors to cover each other's return flow obligations with their various sources. We, for example, just had a meeting with Loveland last week on this concept. So this is fresh in our mind and will be an efficient way for the town to better utilize this Ryan Gulch water in the future. So again, happy to report that that case is now finally decreed and is concluded. Next, I'll briefly cover the initial case related to the town's South Platte Water Supply Project. This is 22 CW 3206. We had 17 party opposers in this case and reached settlements with all of them. Got very close to trial, but finished it up the Thursday before the Monday that we were supposed to head up to Greeley in the water court for a trial on this one. So we are expecting the final decree in this case soon, after which case this will also be all wrapped up. Specifically, 3206 involves new conditional water storage rights in Milliken and Section 20 reservoir, a recharge right in the Druhard recharge site, and exchanges that will enable the town to move water up and down the system, including facilitating reuse of the town's reusable water supplies and reusable effluent that flow down the Big Thompson to the confluence of the South Platte River. So we'll be able to move that water back up to storage and to recharge. The amounts pending decree in this case is up to 2,600 at Milliken, up to 5,200 at Section 20, and up to 603 at Druhard Recharge site. Those are acre foot per year numbers, so a substantial chunk of water that we're hoping to bring online here over the next decade or so. As the board likely knows, this case is the initial piece of the town's larger South Platte Water Supply Project. These water rights are available for direct municipal use within the town service area and for augmentation and replacement in Berthoud's future South Platte augmentation plan that's being coordinated in cooperation with United Water and Sanitation District. That augmentation plan will be the subject of a future case that's in development. We have the application underway. We're just waiting for some initial work to be done on the engineering side with both our consultants and United's consultants. So in terms of the full project, there's still plenty of work left to do, but we are well underway here, and very soon we'll have a final decree in our initial step in that project. And then some of the other future change cases that have been noted, these are yet to be filed, but we hope to file these within the next few months. First, change case for Handy Ditch Company shares. We are working through the final ditch company approval and authorization from the ditch company to file this case. We will file it as soon as that comes in. That's been in the works for too long now, a couple of years, I think. I know Pete's put a lot of work into this with Handy's counsel. This case will claim a change of almost 33 shares of the Handy Ditch Company. Similarly, new types and places of use to authorize all municipal uses within Berthoud's service area. These ditch company shares are, of course, originally decreed just for irrigation under the ditch system. So once we go to court, we'll be having a process that will allow the town to use those for its municipal uses within its service area. Relatedly, Little Thompson Water District recently filed its own very similar application for a chunk of Handy Ditch Company shares. Berthoud will be filing what I will coin a friendly statement of opposition there to monitor the status and the issues in that case, which will proceed a few months ahead of Berthoud's case. So we'll monitor this case and be well aware of potential issues and the status that comes up in that case. So that will inform our approach. Again, hope to file this one in the next few months, and don't want to say certainly, but close to certainly should be underway as we get the summer kicked off. Lastly, on the change case front, we have the Long Lake change. This is expected to be filed later this spring. My colleague Andrea has been hard at work on this one in conjunction with the town's engineering consultants at LRE. LRE is continuing to evaluate historical records and stream data. We've prepared the initial draft application and are continuing to evaluate storage and delivery options and locations in tandem with LRE. So light at the end of the tunnel on the initial filing here. Should be filed later this spring. We have a target date of getting this one filed in May, pending any new analysis that comes in. I know the winter has been not the most ideal, and LRE's well at work of finding the best way to kind of analyze this year in terms of overall snowpack and jive that with the historical record. So that's what they have been working on recently. That covers it for our cases as the applicant for the town. One quick note on an opposition case, Handy Ditch Company's Welch enlargement case for Welch Reservoir. This was an application by Handy Ditch Company to enlarge Welch Reservoir. The town's involved in this case as an opposer. The main concern of the town is potential inundation of the town's pump station at the reservoir site and the town surrounding land. Handy has given us some initial information that the expansion can be completed without inundation of any town property or infrastructure. We are in the early stages of negotiating terms to ensure that's the case, and any necessary future mitigation or agreements that may need to be negotiated to complete the expansion here. So continuing to work through the issues. This case is set for trial in May. So that's fast approaching, and it's high up on our list. I think a resolution is likely, but we're going to continue to ensure that we can protect the town's interests in its property and infrastructure right around the reservoir site there. I'm happy to take any questions on those cases if there are any, and if not, it's always a pleasure to appear before the board.
Thank you, Bradley. What a thorough presentation on that. Trustees, do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay. Trustee Ayers.
Yeah. I apologize, Mr. Kershaw. I think you said this, but I just wanted a clarification on the mitigation possibility for the Welsh opposition. If that does go through and our opposition is not accepted, if something does happen and there is inundation, there are legal recourses to get funds back or get that property correctly addressed. I'm sorry, my English is bad at this time of night. So if something happens and our opposition is not accepted and it were to inundate and damage town property, we have legal recourse to ask for recompensation, yes?
That's correct, yes. And the way that we will structure this is would allow them to get their decree. That would be their step one, but include terms in the decree for a future agreement. So essentially, they could get their case approved, but they could not operate the enlargement without first getting any necessary mitigation agreements with the town. So that's kind of the 1-2 step process. Is they could get the decree, but it couldn't actually be enlarged. They couldn't operate the water right that had been decreed until they had proved satisfactorily that either their position is true in fact, that there will be no inundation, or if there is inundation based on their design records, they would be under an obligation to come to an agreement with the town that was satisfactory to the town before they could actually fill the reservoir up to a point where it would impact the town's interests.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up on that point. So right now, Handy Ditch has 5 or 6 big, huge pieces of equipment on town land adjacent to Welch Reservoir that they're moving a lot of land on. It would look like they're enlarging Welch at this time, but it sounds like based on your comments, that's not the case.
That's not the case. They might be doing some preliminary work out there related to planning and design for the enlargement. I have not been intimately involved with the case, but they certainly cannot, start to fill a larger reservoir area until they have the decree in hand and are in compliance with all the settlement terms and conditions.
Okay, thank you. I didn't follow exactly everything, but I just one point of clarification, and I think it was related to the Milliken site. You talked about 3 different quantities, and I wrote down what I thought you said were the quantities, and it was 2,600, 5,200, and 603. Does that sound right?
That's correct. 2,600 acre feet a year at Milliken, 5,200 acre feet a year at Section 20, and 603 acre feet a year at the recharge site.
And based on the other slide we saw, it had a total of 2,600 acre feet. So this would essentially be 3 times that amount. So we're talking about a material increase in the amount of water. Am I looking at that correctly?
Certainly, yeah, and it will take some time to develop. As noted, the 3206 case here was kind of the town's first step for its South Platte water supply project. The augmentation plan will involve an alluvial well field right around the area of Milliken Reservoir and delivery of similar amounts of water to the town. This will obviously take some time on the ground to the point where it can be operated and beneficially deliver water to the town. But I think Pete has tried to summarize the South Platte project as really the big next step in the town's water portfolio. So I think it certainly has the potential to, and the goal is to have a plan here that we can have approved and start to move some dirt on at some point in the not too distant future that will substantially increase the amount of wet water that is available to the town.
Yeah, thank you. That's great because we're going to see a graph, I think, in a few slides, and it shows our demand versus our water. And the numbers you just stated are certainly going to give us what it looks like is a substantial surplus. So that's just great news. Thank you.
Yes, happy to report. And I don't think that the graph there has incorporated these new claims just because they haven't formally been decreed. But as noted, we are right at the finish line and just need to take care of some last procedural items here. I think our goal is to actually file our motion for entry of the final decree by the end of this week. If that's the case, we should have the decree in hand before the end of the month.
Well, that's great. You're setting us up well for the future. Would you just very quickly give us a definition of decree water?
Ken or Alex, do you want to explain that?
I can take a stab at that. I think in kind of the average understanding term is essentially a court decree allows you to legally use a portion of water and with respect to this slide that's on the screen and what we consider our decree water, that's a portion of the number or the Big Thompson's number 1 decree on the river, and that's up to that around 18,000. I think in a wet year it can get closer to 2,000. I'm not sure what the top end is, but that there's limited availability for storage, but it is a direct flow source that can go right to our treatment plant.
And does that go into perpetuity?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you very much. That was good
You're
definition.
welcome. Thanks, Bradley.
Yep, happy to help. And as Alex noted, yeah, the decree water and the context of this slide here relates specifically to one decree that was adjudicated many years ago. The other supplies there we can see are CBT units or other changed ditch shares that the town's adjudicated. So the 3206 case that I just explained, that at a high level could be framed as decree water also, but we'll need to bifurcate that decree water since the town now is getting multiple decrees in its own name for different sources. So that was the first there on the Big Thompson. So we've referenced that generally as decree water in the past, but more quote unquote decree water in the town's own name that the town has adjudicated will be coming online hopefully soon.
Thank you.
Great.
I just have a quick question for staff, I think mainly. And first of all, I'm so grateful staff does such a great job of diversifying our water and firming up and making sure that we can use the water and store it, the water that we have access to. So I'm really grateful. I do think a worst case scenario, especially with this year, is saying, are we on the precipice of a drought or a dry season, and are we modeling and projecting if we have continued seasons like we are right now? How does the supply demand change? Are we needing to take any measures to kind of mitigate any issues with the supply, and can we continue to grow and build infrastructure if we continue with the dry seasons we're seeing?
Yeah. Well, our intent was through this presentation was to address this dry season. Now's a good time. You want to kind of talk about what we've been talking about. We're pretty early in the season to be making rock hard decisions, but we have some balls rolling with respect to what ifs and worst case and stuff such as that.
And if I may, sorry to interrupt, Alex, but in addition to what Alex will talk about kind of specifically for this year and thinking ahead, our raw water master plan did model, I think, 7 different scenarios, if I remember right. But all of those are kind of varying degrees of long-term drought and changes in climate and things like that. And so even under what I would call the most conservative scenario, where you expect higher irrigation demand because you have drier seasons, you have less water available because of drier seasons, you have extended warm seasons and longer growing seasons. Even in those cases, we're evaluating and modeling all of those as we do larger master plan updates. And then as we do these snapshots, we can check against those kind of original models. And then those will get updated periodically, in that 5 to 10 year range. As situations change, we'll do a larger master plan update. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. Sorry. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, to answer your question, I think, there's, excuse me, there's a lot of dynamics that go into play. I think that the main takeaway is our potable, and treatable supply, to provide to the citizens of Berthoud is intact and is fairly strong for, the size of the town at its current state. The non-pot supply is a little more dynamic and kind of susceptible to drought. It depends on how much water is stored in reservoirs, how much water is stored in Welch and Loveland Lake, and the ability to to serve that non-pot water. And us as staff of the town and utilities, we've tried to to kind of not stockpile but just store excess water as we can. And so I think that we're in a pretty good place going into this year as 2026. But the big concern regionally within all of northern Colorado is what happens, like you said, in 2027 or 2028 if there's extended drought. What does that mean? Ken and I both attended a few different meetings with NOCO water alliances or different communities that may have more excess water or have expressed concern for for drought situations. So I think that continuing to be a part of those and just being involved in the conversation and monitoring early as we have done now can keep us in a situation where we can make sure to meet the non-pot demand of the town, as well as trying to make sure that all of our farmers, which is such a big part of the community, that they can have sustainable crops even with some of this potential drought scenario. So I don't know if I answered your question very well.
No, that's very helpful.
But
and I mean, obviously you guys are having those conversations, so that's reassuring for me, and I'm sure the public to hear, and just knowing what our emergency plans are for drought scenarios, and knowing that we have a plan in place and that we can try to service as much as possible in those seasons. And I would rather plan for an emergency and the worst case scenario and have a stockpile, like you said, than wish we had. So thank you for those efforts.
Of course. Go ahead.
regarding the snowpack situation, have you guys heard anything from Northern Water or any indications of where their deliveries are going to land this April?
I think their supply is pretty healthy. They always plan for drought, and so the supply on the west slope and the reservoirs over there in Grand Lake and Shadow Mountain, they're in good condition, but they are concerned about the snowpack and and the fill and the big thing with CBT water and the Colorado Big Thompson project is it is a supplemental supply, and so Northern Water does a good job of making sure that when they set the quota, which is usually around 60 or 70%, that it's looking ahead for not just 1 year but a couple of years. But in times like we could see if there's not much more snow, which we should get some this weekend. Hopefully, I'm going skiing on Friday. But if it does not improve, then the supplemental supply could be a way that they start with the 70% quota and bump it up to 80 or 90. They've done it in the past. I think that it's I don't know if it's counterintuitive, but it can be it can hurt the supply going forward, but at least it can help as a supplemental water for ag and for municipal going into this year. So
Perfect.
just listening in as best as we can, being involved in the conversation, but just have to wait and see.
Certainly appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Continuing on with the snapshot analysis, we looked at the water supply portion. Now looking at, excuse me, the water demands. You can see on the graph here that the trend line is fairly consistent. 2023 is definitely an outlier, and there's a lot of rain, starting in early May through almost mid-July, and so that's just going to decrease the amount of outdoor irrigation. So kind of taking that out of it, the big takeaway that I wanted to show with this graph is looking at 2024 and 2025. 25, as noted at the bottom, is an estimated value. We used some preliminary treatment numbers. I just wanted to make sure that we got a data point on the graph for you all to see. But 2,000 acre feet in a year is the new normal, essentially. I don't think it's going to go down unless we get another anomaly year. So 2,000 is what we've been projecting for and what we will continue to going forward. Okay. The next slide and kind of the last piece of the water demand side of things is looking at unrealized water demand. This is essentially commitments to developers that it's not reflected in our treated water or actual demand, but it's basically water payments for development, water dedication that we have issued a certificate to a development. They either haven't finished their development, they haven't started with building permits, but we can project that out, and our number that we've calculated is about 545 acre feet. So in a couple slides when I show the graph, you'll be able to see that difference between actual and unrealized. But the big thing is that it is based off of actual building permits, and it's not going to happen overnight. So we like to put it into consideration for what things could look like in the future, and especially with this 2026 master plan update, we will certainly incorporate not just this unrealized and committed demand, but what has community development been communicating with different developers, and what could it look like going 10-15 years down the road, and how that's going to affect our supply. So the unrealized demand is an important part, but it is it's not a today look. It's kind of what are we seeing, and what trends can we pull from that. So looking at the different water snapshot scenarios. So in black at the top, that's our current day existing and actual existing actual and unrealized SFEs. So if we incorporated everything that we've committed to, that the town is committed to, it's about 8,858 SFEs. Scenario 1 is looking at or the different scenarios are looking at the Windy Gap yield. Scenario 1 is with no firm yield. We can still use Windy Gap at times, but it goes against our CBT. So So this number is 9,023. Scenario 2 is an average windy gap yield, which is about 2/3, 66% of what we could get. That jumps it up to 11,190. And then scenario 3 is our full firm windy gap yield, which is 12,213. And those numbers are, what the town can serve, if we get those yields from our windy gap supply. This next graph, I think this is the best representation. I'm more visual, and so it's easier to kind of digest the information. So like I said, the black line is the actual demand that we're seeing. We're going off of historical kind of building permit, what has been applied in the past, and making it on kind of an easy curve. Then the gray area and the dotted line, that's looking at the committed demand. So if overnight we had 545 acre feet of additional demand, that's what it would look like. But again, that's not likely, and not something that I think is really worth projecting based off what we've seen in the past. So looking at the horizontal bars across the graph there, scenario 1, like we just talked about, that's the amount of supply and that we can provide with no windy gap yield. That gets us at least into 2029. Scenario 2 gets us through 2032 and into 2033. And then scenario 3 gets us into at least 2034, if not beyond. And again, a big takeaway with this graph is this is just current supply, current CBT, current ditch shares, unchanged. And so as we continue to acquire, to develop our South Platte supplies, and with whether it's purchase or dedication, these our supply numbers are going to go up. So it's something that we'll keep monitoring, and as we come back and share the snapshots in the future, you'll see them incrementally increase, and if there's a big purchase, then it'll be reflected. Okay, so the last result slide that I have for you is just an easy and kind of fun graph, just to show how we treat and what supplies we treat throughout the year. Starts in November. That's the water year, which is kind of based off of the irrigation season. So starting in November, we usually like to treat windy gap. Reason being, we can kind of interchange windy gap and CBT pretty easily. However, using windy gap, it is a reusable supply, like we've talked about. It can be stored downstream in the South Platte, and the two big factors for why it's better to use in the wintertime is irrigation ditches are not on. There's a lot less activity on the rivers, so it's easier to shepherd water down past ditch diversions and different users, as well as there's a lot less system loss. So in the wintertime, whatever goes in the water that goes into the treatment plant, 80 or 90% of it can come through the wastewater plant. But when you look at the summertime, it could be 20 or 30% just based off of outdoor irrigation on lawns. That's not going to make it through the system. So when we're using that reusable supply, it's best to use it in the wintertime, and then we can store it downstream for future use. As we get into the spring and April, that's when our decree water comes into priority. That's usually April 27th, I believe. And then as we move into May through October, that's a pretty stable supply, and that's essentially our base use. So you can see that that's on the bottom in red, and then the rest of the available supplies are going to be peaking numbers, and that's what we use to meet that demand. And then we also have some regional partners that that we can work with as well. So just wanted to show that. You may have seen it in the past, but I think it's just a good look at how we use our portfolio for treatment.
So kind of wrapping up all of this, moving forward into 2026, we're going to continue to be aggressive. We have a pretty good nest egg to buy water. So we're looking for opportunities to buy CBT or windy gap or handy ditch is a primary source. And we're also going to keep our foot on the throttle to finish the work for the South Platte water supply. We've said it several times, but I've been here talking to you guys about firming this windy gap and a reasonable stuff over and over and over again. We looked at building something in order to do it. Well, we're committed to this methodology now. We've cleared our first hurdle, and have some momentum. And so, we're going to bear down on it now and get that done, because it is so critical for Windy Gap and our other reusable supplies that we have. We're right now not going to recommend a change in our dedication policy. The policy of dedicating water to the town with new development or paying cash in lieu today. We think inherently our cash in lieu price is likely low. From an accounting standpoint, it checks out. It works, and we continue to grow that fund, so we're staying the course. But we're well below market, and we'll be looking at that hard this year. I would expect us to be coming back to you later in the year with a recommendation to increase that. Alex talked about the model that he's developing. Other things that I want to kind of point out with respect to the analysis and the modeling is that curve that you saw is basically kind of a standard growth rate. We're going to be in this master plan. We're going to be looking harder at 5 years. We should have a good handle on exactly which lots are going to be coming in and permitting and building in 5 years. And so instead of just applying a standard growth rate to, we're going to be looking at the actual permits that are going to be coming in. And the other thing that we're going to be rolling into this into this master plan is the non-potable component. The two are really linked and need to be applied. And I can't emphasize enough, the success of our non-potable system is directly related to our capacity at our treatment plant. We've talked a lot about the health of our portfolio and the ability of our portfolio to deliver water during peak times and this and that. We're going to have a treatment plant that'll do that too. And right now it is at capacity. And so that low-hanging fruit that we're going to be able to produce capacity that will give our water treatment plant a little bit of a respite is growing our non-potable usage. So that is going to be looked at more aggressively and rolled into this water resources master plan. Lastly, Alex talked about the robustness of our portfolio and how conservative Northern Water is with respect to estimates and drought planning. We are looking at if we continue the way we are now in order to manage our water resources, but also manage flow at the water treatment plant, will we need to incorporate mandatory watering days and stuff like that, and bring a recommendation to you for action such as that. So that is those are questions that we're dealing with on a daily basis. I think that wraps up everything.
Well, thank you very much. This is fantastic. Trustees, we're over the double our, decreed time here. Is there any pressing questions?
Yeah, I have one. I think it's pretty big. Just to clarify, on slide 8, you've got sort of the supply and demand, and as we get out of ways, it gets kind of tight. And I didn't really understand how the Milliken Reservoir, 8,000 acre feet, comes into play there. Is that included in your number? And if not, when does that come online?
Yeah, it's not included in the number currently. It's a long range plan. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built out, but also the
5 years, 20 years. I mean, what's reality?
I would say closer to 5 to 10.
Okay.
A lot of it's working with our partner in United and how quickly they can how quickly we and the other partners in the reservoir project want to build out infrastructure and the ability to use that water out there. The junior storage right is it's junior for a reason. It's 2022 is the priority date, so that means everyone else in line has to get their water before we do. So that piece of the storage is going to be pretty small. Our Windy Gap reuse water is, we don't treat a lot, and so what we can store is not on a scale of 4 to 5 or 8,000 like we have available. It's something that's The infrastructure is probably 5 to 10 years, but being able to store that full amount, I would say, is closer to 10 to 20.
Okay, nice job on the presentation. Very good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Just comment. Thank you for this information. I think most citizens, much like myself, we go turn on the faucet and water comes out and we take it for granted. But this is very complex in the amount of moving parts to supply a growing community with potable water, and non-potable water is staggering. But thank you for this information.
I just want to echo the comment about urgency with increasing capacity for the water retreating. And so thank you for bringing that back to us so we can address that in a timely manner. And I think that's, as we look at infrastructure, that's something I don't want to forsake addressing soon. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Good work. Good news. Mayor Pro
Mayor
Tem?
Karspek, if I could ask one thing, could we get this presentation added to the water page?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great. Good
Okay.
idea.
Thank
Good
you.
idea. All right. Next on our agenda is we have Luke Sievers, our engineering supervisor, to present the intersection management master plan.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Luke Sieber, Development Review Engineer. I'm here with Nick Vanderquack from Fair and Piers. Just give a quick introduction and then let him take over. The seeds for this model were germinated when we were looking at a master plan for the First Street corridor that would have looked at the transportation, drainage, and kind of an overall view of that corridor from the town's perspective. And what we pulled out from there, although we didn't necessarily proceed with that at the time, is that a transportation model would be of great benefit for our knowledge throughout the town. Currently, we depend a lot on, or almost entirely on, developers' traffic engineering studies to understand the impacts of the various intersections. And usually those studies focus on a narrow range around their developments. This study would allow us to incorporate developer studies from all across town, see where each intersection is currently, in the future, and it will help us in many ways. And I'll let Nick with Fair and Piers here help explain it a little better than I could.
Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me tonight. Advance the slide here. Again, my name is Nick Vanderquack. I'm with a firm called Fair and Piers. We are traffic and transportation planners and engineers. We're working with the town on developing this townwide model. So I wanted to introduce the concept to you of the townwide model, as Luke was saying, and talk a bit about where we're at in the process and answer any questions for you about the presentation here tonight. So I will advance through that. A key point that we wanted to address, at the onset as we talk about here is why is the town developing its own model, right? Luke mentioned a couple of these things, right? A system-wide view of traffic is important. Traffic operations, it's a dynamically changing thing in a growing community, and keeping tabs, not just from one traffic study, but having a holistic view on that is important for the town, and this will allow the town to have a better insight and an independent insight into that, independent from the applications that come in for development. This model can also be used to evaluate future roadway improvements. Town staff can use the model to test certain improvements and seeing what that impact would be on traffic operations and level of service at the intersections as far as delay and things like that. And then proposed developments, new trips in the traffic studies that are done with those can be added into this model and worked with, and the model can be used independent from those as well to help with decisions regarding various scenarios with what you might do. For example, on US 287 with CDOT doing a safety project there, looking at some of those intersections. And then the model is provided, it can be provided to developers as a baseline that they can use so that their study and their results can integrate after that into the town model, and it can be maintained as kind of a master model for the town, and approved developments can be added in as over time as that happens. So in terms of what we are including in the model, this map that I'm showing here, the red icons are the intersections that we're evaluating as part of the process. And as we chose what intersections to include. We used a couple of decisions on that, right? Every arterial intersection is included in the model. Many of the arterial collector roadways are included, and then any traffic study that had been conducted that included an intersection that they evaluated, we also considered bringing that into this townwide model overall. So we have quite a few intersections included in the core of Berthoud here, but also looking at the growth management area and the areas of growth, looking into the future where the areas that maybe you wouldn't care as much about now, but you might care about as future development happens in some of those locations. The data sources that we brought into this model, as I mentioned, we looked at all the previous and approved traffic impact studies that have been conducted. A lot of traffic counts were conducted in that process, and the more recent ones we integrated into this townwide model. We also collected a series of new traffic counts, both in the AM and the PM peak, to understand locations where we didn't have that kind of data. And then we also integrated some big data sources collected using cell phone location-based data and other data sources. There's a source called Replica, and that kind of filled in the gaps on some of the locations where we didn't have information, and we were able to build that into the model. And then we also coordinated with the travel demand model from North Front Range MPO and incorporated some of the growth and kind of assumptions from that model into this. So a quick snapshot into where we're at currently. So we have developed the existing conditions model, and one of the key metrics that we're reporting back on is the level of service at intersections, which is a measure of delay defined by the Highway Capacity Manual. And what that does is it's a metric that helps you to evaluate how much delay there is, and it's on a metric between A and F. A is not always best, but F, sometimes A is free flow traffic, right, where things are operating without really any delays. But it's a good metric to be able to look and see how our intersections currently operating. So the map on the left shows the intersections we evaluated with that. And this is during the AM peak travel period. The locations shown that are at a lower level of service at E or F are generally some of those locations on 287 where a vehicle has to wait quite a while to make a turn, and it's measuring that worst impact in terms of that turning movement at those locations. And then looking into the PM, we also have some metrics. It's usually there's more delay in the PM with more people traveling during that hour. This is showing that as well. So we're well into evaluating that existing conditions model. And that the next phase that we're currently working on is looking at the future traffic scenario. And so just to describe what that includes, it's looking 20 years into the future at 2045. It's looking at including all the approved developments that already have been approved by the town, and then adding in also a level of background traffic growth that's happening within the region to really estimate into the future what's happening and what we can expect there. And so there's a lot of also intersection improvements, turning lane additions, other signals changes, roundabouts, stop control. All those assumptions we're working through, and we're working with town staff on what the town wants to include in that model, and that will be conducted over the next few months here as we're working within that process. So the next steps here, Fair and Pierce scope with the town includes developing this model. It also includes some staff training time, so we can train town staff on how to use the model. It's done in a software called Synchro. It's a standard traffic operations software that the town will use and can make their own changes and look at the model and work with the model. And then we'll get the town ready to use it for ongoing comparisons into kind of future applications, right? And kind of defining how to evaluate infrastructure decisions, how this can be used for development proposals, and also thinking ahead into the master plan updates in terms of assumptions on traffic and growth. So as I mentioned, those phases were complete with existing conditions. That future scenario, we're kind of ongoing with that work. And we're really looking to wrap it up in March and April, so it's going to come soon here. But this is more of an update in terms of where we're at and an opportunity to ask any questions. So I will pause there and see if anyone has any questions for me.
Trustees, any questions? All right, now.
Okay, great.
I do. I've comment. Long time coming. This is. We talked about this for a while, so this is so awesome to see this underway. I think this will help out, no matter where you are in town, just to be able to look at the holistic approach to the whole town, except for development by development. So, just wanted to commend you on that and bringing this forward. Trustees?
No,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no, I agree. Thank you. This is very helpful. I think, especially since often for various reasons, people have concerns about the accuracy of some of the traffic studies. So it's good to have kind of an all-encompassing view of the entire town, top down. So, thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, item number 4 here is a presentation on tree strips. This is also an informational update, and we have Bello Manzano, our town planner here. I said Bella.
Thank you, Mayor Karspeck and Town Board of Trustees. I'm excited to take you on what I believe is your first virtual field trip of the year. This was a informational presentation that was given to the Planning Commission last year on October 23rd that dives into a little bit of the terminology change that we saw in our development code update in response to some state legislation regarding turf. So we'll be going through that. So what are tree lawns and tree strips? So a tree lawn means a strip of right-of-way landscaping in the right-of-way, generally between the street and an adjacent detached sidewalk. So these are oftentimes referred to as landscaped strip, a parkway strip, or a tree strip. This area is notorious for being difficult to maintain for many reasons, such as its small width, its exposure to heat from the adjacent road and sidewalk, and its proximity to the street and adjacent traffic impacts. This photo that you see on the slide is from a northern Colorado community. I won't name names. As you can see in this photo, the entire tree lawn or tree strip is covered in turf. Speaking of which, let's talk about turf. So turf generally refers to any cool season turf species, variety, or blend, including but not limited to Kentucky bluegrass or fescue. So cool season grasses are typically varieties of grass that thrive in cooler climates. They're cooler in temperature, they're a little bit more moist, and they grow most in the early spring and fall. And they give a quicker time to green up, so in the springtime you see them looking really lush really fast. However, because they green up so fast, these varieties can be very water hungry and susceptible to high heat. They also have a higher fertilization requirement relative to warm season grasses and native grasses, so a lot more maintenance in general. What we saw from the state in Bill 24-005 was the prohibition of the installation of non-functional turf, artificial turf, and invasive plant species on new developments or redevelopments of commercial, institutional, or industrial properties. So that would include street rights-of-way, parking lots, medians, and transportation corridors. And this took effect on January 1st of this year. So, as part of this legislation, how are they defining functional and non-functional turf? So, functional turf, under this legislation, means turf that is located in a recreational use area or other space that is regularly used for civic, community, or recreational purposes, which may include playgrounds, sports fields, picnic grounds, amphitheaters, portions of parks, and the playing areas of golf courses such as driving ranges, chipping and putting greens, tee boxes, greens, fairways, and roughs. So, a lot of different applications here. And on the other side of things, non-functional turf is defined as any type of turf that is not in the definition above. So, functional and non-functional. And as such, given that the state legislature has given us these new regulations in our code with the update that was passed in December of last year, we have changed the definition of this portion of landscaping from tree lawn to tree strip. So, keeping this terminology change in mind, we can talk about how this looks off the page and in the real world. And I'll pause at this moment. Are there any questions first about that legislation? Trustee Ayers.
Are these requirements backdated for anything that has not gone forward, or anything that has been cleared is still cleared with the original?
That's correct. Yep, it's not backdated, so it won't retroactively apply to developments that are already in process or approved. That's a great question. Any other questions? So when we look at turf in tree strips, there are definitely some benefits to having landscaping in this area, including reduced heat island effect, and the aesthetic impact, and spaces for pet relief, spaces to walk. Some cons are the high maintenance that we see with turf, including mowing, trimming around trees that can be, once a week, string trimming and mowing, fertilization that typically happens twice a year, weed control, aeration, etc. They typically have a high water use and they're difficult to irrigate. As you can see in that bottom photo, you have quite a good amount of overspray and runoff as well. And then we also see some high foot traffic. Also in that second image, you see that the turf looks a little bit worse for wear. So they're very difficult to maintain. When we look at the alternative, native plantings and tree strips or xeriscaping in tree strips, we see some of the same pros: reduced heat island effect, aesthetic, seasonal, and year-round. Spaces for pet relief still exist in these options. There's also opportunities for increased stormwater filtration, support for pollinators, lower water use, lower maintenance. Typically, these types of plantings require weeding and seasonal pruning, so you're out there maybe once a month giving it a pick through for weeds rather than every single week, string trimming and mowing. And then you also see lower chemical use, so reduced fertilization and reduced application of herbicides. The cons are the establishment time. It takes some time to see these really fill out. As you see in the top photo, that's a quite established tree strip, and on that bottom photo you see it looks like it's just been planted, so it takes some time and some investment. So as we look and embark on our virtual field trip, our first stop will be locally here in Timnath. This is in a roadway median. We have a very great example of a durable, low maintenance roadway strip. So this is in a very highly trafficked area. They did a good job of utilizing low water species and keeping it aesthetically pleasing. There's a good mix of colors and textures, and these are plants that will also have year-round interest. In Windsor, also a very close neighbor, we see a good amount of color variety and native species here in a roadway median as well that also incorporates trees while still maintaining a visual safety barrier for adjacent motorists. In Longmont, we have a residential example. This design appears to function as a bioswale as well, so it's having a dual function as both landscape that's aesthetic as well as treating stormwater on site. And this may, for this homeowner, reduce foot traffic as well in the tree strip and discourage unsafe street crossings. Because you can imagine you probably don't want to pick your way over those boulders to jaywalk in front of the street. So if that's a concern as well, that would be mitigated here. In Fort Collins, we have a really fantastic example by landscape designer Lauren Springer, who is pioneering a lot in the area of tree strip design. Very robust area landscape. This design features large clumping grasses, yuccas, and evergreen manzanitas that really do serve as accents threaded throughout with year-round appeal. So those are going to continue to look nice throughout all seasons. She also features perennials and self-sowing annuals, as well as biennials and bulbs that fill in the gaps and allow maintenance to stretch out a little bit longer than every year. This is just on the opposite side of the street in Fort Collins. This is a very, very narrow tree strip that has been utilized very well. We even have repetitive plantings, so there's not a lot of task on acquiring different species of plants from a nursery. They're using the same items in a aesthetic and visually interesting manner. Sticking around in Fort Collins, we have an additional roadway median. This one does a fantastic job of leveraging visual safety and hardscape elements with vertical elements as well. So they have these boulders, as you can see, that offer a safety feature as a sort of pseudo bollard in between these roadways, as well as enhancing the visual texture of the roadway median. So as much as we all love Colorado, we will have one example from a Southwest neighbor who is very familiar with drought conditions and arid climate and landscape. So this is a roadway median from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and this does a fantastic job of demonstrating that these type of plantings can be executed even in very arid conditions. So this specific project was a prototype executed by the city of Albuquerque on over 70 miles of city medians, and what they implemented was a modular approach. So they offered communities and HOAs modular designs that they could implement at different areas in their neighborhoods to kind of tailor it to each individual community while offering them an easy way to implement these types of designs. So with that, I thank you for your time as we embarked on this virtual field trip, and I would entertain any questions that you may have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bella.
Thank you.
Trustees, questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm familiar with a particular neighborhood, and it's got the typical lawn strip.
Mm-hmm.
There's another filing that's going in that neighborhood. The homes have not been started yet, but the grading is done. Would that filing be grandfathered in because it's in the neighborhood, or would it not?
To my understanding, that type of development would be grandfathered in as the application was received and approved before this legislation was in effect.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice job. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
So it's only because I brought up Tahoma 31 before. So this only covers cool season. So if you had a warm season grass, then you're fine.
Yes, so I actually took note of when you mentioned Tahoma
Yeah.
31 in a previous hearing. So that would be allowable under this legislation, as it does make a provision for hybridized or, native species that have been hybridized for drought conditions. So that would be permissible due to its, characteristics as a drought-tolerant grass.
Interesting. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good in there. All right, next is our first public hearing. This is a reenactment of certain portions of Chapter 14 regarding licensing. And we have our permit technician, Audrey Bethune, here. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Koscheck and trustees. I'm Audrey Bothan, permit technician with the town of Berthoud. I'm here with Brenton and Taylor, who are also permit techs. This is our second reading for the proposed ordinance revision for Chapter 14 concerning contractor licensing. There have been no changes since the first reading. If you have any questions, I can answer those.
Trustees, any questions?
No.
All right. You don't? But this time I'll open it up to the public real quick. Is there anyone in the audience wishes to speak to this? We got to sign up, did we? Thank you. We have no one signed up, so I'll bring it back to the board for deliberation. Is there any? Seems like we're all in favor. Any questions or comments? All right. Would a trustee like to move on this?
Make a motion.
All right. For let's see here. Thank you.
I move to approve ordinance 1376, an ordinance of the town of Berthoud, Colorado, amending Chapter 14 of the Berthoud Municipal Code with respect to contractors' licensing requirements, specifically sections 14.9-9 and 14.9-8 and Appendix A.
Second.
Excellent. Trustee Brody has moved on this. Trustee Wing has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wing?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Yes.
Trustee Ayers?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht?
Yes.
Trustee Brody?
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second public hearing tonight is regarding the Fickle Farm 5th filing preliminary plat. We have our planning manager, Ton Hillenbrand, here.
Mayor, before we begin,
Yes.
to avoid concerns of bias, I do live across the street from this development, so I'm going to recuse myself.
Fair enough.
And as I have no report tonight, I believe I'm going to excuse myself for the evening.
Awesome.
Unless
All
anyone
right.
has
Well, have a great night. Thank you. Appreciate you speaking up.
Mayor Karsbeck,
Yes.
there are some additional public comments that are coming down the road to you. These were received after your packets went out last week related to this item. So some of these you've likely seen via email, but they are printed and they'll be brought up tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees, Ton Hillenbrand, Planning Manager. So before we jump into the item of this evening, Fickle Farm 5th filing, I do have a couple of slides that are more for the audience this evening or those joining us who are less familiar with the public hearing process as well as the land approval process. So much of what I will be saying here in the next few slides may be repetitive, but again, this is for our audience. So as There are 4 stages of a land use approval process. So the first being a pre-application meeting. The pre-application process is required prior to making an official application. The applicant is receiving input from staff regarding code requirements and expectations as they move forward. And from a pre-application, then the applicant can really make a determination if they want to prepare an application and submit, or if the project is not viable. So the second, once an application is received, staff reviews the application submittal for completeness and then sends the application out to town departments and divisions as well as referral agencies for review. Typically, staff and referral agencies have 6 weeks to review an application from their perspective and provide the staff planner with comments to be sent to the applicant to address with the next submittal or resubmittal. The applicant addresses comments, seeks clarification, and resubmits. Most applicants have addressed comments in roughly 3 to 4 rounds of review and are then ready for a public hearing. Some applicants determine the town of Berthoud isn't right for them during the pre-application or the application review process. The town has had several submittals withdrawn after the applicant has received comments regarding landscaping, architecture, and site design. Several submittals do not make it to public hearing. So once an application is ready for public hearing, staff sends notice via postcard, publishes the notice in the newspaper, and the applicant posts a sign on the property. The notice requirements are detailed in our development code. And then step 3, the public meeting will be reviewed in more detail on the following slides. In general, the public meeting consists of a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant, public comment, and the applicant's rebuttal period, and then the town trustees discuss and vote on the application. And then the 4th step is after a public hearing for a preliminary plat. In this particular case, the applicant starts preparing for the next development review stages, and documents from that initial stage are recorded with the county. So the order of business for the public hearing is outlined on this slide, and we'll walk through this together. So the mayor will open the agenda item as he has done, and staff will introduce the agenda item, which I will do here momentarily, and provide a presentation. So staff's concerns during the land use planning process focus on how an application meets the intent of the comprehensive plan vision, the steps outlined in the development code for specific application materials and processing, and has included the design and development standards required into the application as applicable. The applicant will make a presentation following staff's presentation, and then the mayor will open the public hearing portion of the agenda item, accept public comments, and will then close public testimony. The applicant will have the opportunity to rebut comments made by the public, and the trustees will then deliberate on the development requirements or the intent statements, seek clarification from staff, and then make a motion of approval, approve with conditions, or deny. So this slide was provided by CIRSA, the organization that provides insurance for the town. This information is provided for those joining us this evening that are less familiar, of course, with the town board of trustees role and how decisions are made. The town board is a quasi-judicial body, and their role is to arrive at the meeting unbiased, do not make pre-hearing statements, they do not engage in pre-hearing buzz, do not engage in ex parte communication. Generally, they are expected to send the public and public comments to staff. They do not participate if they will have a financial or other personal interest in the matter. They do not sign any pro or con petitions. They ask questions to seek clarification. They do not bring facts or evidence that aren't part of the testimony into the hearing. And they are not a witness, persecutor, advocate, or investigator. The other half of this slide provides how decisions are made, and I won't read those tonight, but again, are provided for the public joining us this evening who are less familiar with this process. So for this agenda item, this is the Fickle Farm 5th filing. Project consists of 2 properties, which is Tract A and Tract B, totaling approximately 14 acres, and is located south of Mountain Avenue of the intersection of Pyramid Peak Street. The Tract A and Tract B are currently zoned UR Urban Residential. This current zone district was approved by the board in November of 2024. The property is designated urban residential district in the future land use map. In addition, a portion of the 2 tracts is within the Mountain Avenue corridor, specifically the Berthoud East Character District, as denoted by the hatch marking on the map on the screen before you. Per the Berthoud Trails Master Plan, 2 trails are planned within the area of the proposed project. A regional trail as denoted by the dashed purple line and a neighborhood trail denoted by the dashed orange line. The Fickle Farm 5th filing properties are adjacent to Pioneer Park, which is part of that overall Fickle Farm development. And the applicant is requesting preliminary plat approval to create a residential development consisting of 104 townhome lots and 50 paired home, or what are referred to as duplex lots. This is the applicant's second application for the Fickle Farm 5th filing preliminary plat. The first application was withdrawn by the applicant following the November 13th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting and prior to the town board meeting. So as a reminder, and for those again joining us this evening that are a little less familiar with the land division process, a preliminary plat is the second step in the overall land division process. Preliminary plat takes about 12 to 18 months to complete on average. And following preliminary plat, the applicant moves into final plat, which includes completion of a development agreement. This step takes about 8 to 12 months on average to complete. Final plat is the step necessary to actually create the legal lots. Following final plat, the applicant moves into pre-construction steps, which include such things as grading and infrastructure installation, and then on to building permits for residential development such as this. If this were a commercial development, from final plat, it would move on to a use by special review or site plan application prior to permit. So Fickle Farm 5th filing received neighborhood master plan and rezone approval, or in other words, completed step 1 in November again of 2024. The approved neighborhood master plan included 115 townhome lots and 50 paired home lots, as well as a pocket park. The approved neighborhood master plan is shown on the screen and is included in your packet as an attachment. The proposed preliminary plat is consistent with the neighborhood master plan with 2 minor modifications. The first minor modification is the size of the stormwater detention area located at the curve of Pyramid Peak Street and Remuda Road. This detention area was expanded as a result of the preliminary drainage study to accommodate stormwater flows. The second minor modification is a reduction in the overall density of the development. The approved neighborhood master plan proposed 115 townhome lots and 50 paired home lots, while this preliminary plat proposes 104 townhomes and 50 paired home lots. The overall density has been reduced from 165 total lots to 154 total lots. These modifications do not change the overall layout of the development, road network, or lot configuration. And while the density has changed, a reduction in density is not considered a substantial change. Therefore, the preliminary plat is considered to be consistent with the approved neighborhood master plan. This new Fickle Farm 5th preliminary plat application completed 1 round of referral agency and staff review. This slide reflects those staff and agencies that received a referral request and are those typically assigned a review for each and every preliminary plat application the town receives. In reviewing the application materials, each reviewing party is expected to either confirm they have no concern or they provide comments and requested revisions based upon code requirements. Each subsequent submittal made by the applicant is then expected to address the requested revisions of that review. In this particular case, all requests for revisions made by staff and referral agencies were adequately addressed, and therefore the preliminary plat was allowed to advance to public hearing. Prior to hearing, every application completes public noticing requirements. For preliminary plat, noticing is required to be completed 15 days prior to the Planning Commission hearing. You may be wondering what happens to those comments received as part of the previous application, the one that they withdrew. So comments received as part of a previous application remain with the public record for that particular application. They do not move forward with the new application. This applies not only applications that are withdrawn, but also those that are approved or denied. A new application is reviewed on its own merits, and therefore previous comments, whether made by staff, referral agencies, or the community, are not valid to the new application. So the community is given a new opportunity to provide comment on the new application. So this provides fair due process, in essence. Several public comments have been received for this application. Those comments received prior to publishing of the town board staff report or the hearing agenda packet are included as an attachment to the staff report, and they are the last attachment. Those comments received after the publishing of the town board staff report, including those received on February 9th as well as today, have been provided to you in print this evening. So Section 5 of the Town Development Code states that the town shall use the following development requirements as seen in your packet and on the screen to evaluate the application. And I will continue with these on the next slide. In order to approve a preliminary plat, the statements must be met. Planning Commission finds that the Fickle Farm 5th preliminary plat request meets the development requirements of Section 30-5-101. Specific details on how the project is meeting those statements are provided in your staff report. And you may notice that these are maybe a little bit unfamiliar to you because these are the new intent statements that we adopted with the new development code. So once again, Planning Commission heard the request for approval of the Fickle Farm 5th filing preliminary plat at their January 8th, 2026 public meeting and voted unanimously to send the recommendation of approval to the Town Board of Trustees. And with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Manager Hillenbrand, any questions from the trustees?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. And then, sorry if I'm being redundant with your presentation, but does Fickle Farm 5th filing adhere to the land use code?
Yes, it does.
Does the filing comply with the town's adopted plans, policy, and codes?
Yes, it does.
Is there any reason we can't move forward?
Staff does not believe so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, is the applicant in the audience?
Yes, they are.
All right, the applicant would like to come forward. Welcome.
Okay, there we go. All right. Good evening. Sorry, it took me a second there to get ready.
Okay.
My name is Kristen Turner. I'm with TV Group 444 Mountain Avenue, and we're here tonight to talk about Fickle Farm. You'll see on the screen our project team that has been included in the work to date, and we do have folks here available to answer questions if they come up. They may not come to the podium if there aren't specific questions for them, but did want to make you aware that the team is here in case you've got any. All right. So this property is located just south of Mountain Avenue and north of the existing Fickle Farm neighborhood and Pioneer Park. We're here tonight to discuss the preliminary plat. This is the last two, or these are the last two tracks of the Fickle Farm subdivision to develop. So the majority of the subdivision has already been approved and constructed. The property is approximately 14 acres with urban residential zoning, and it has always been envisioned for residential development. This plan proposes 104 townhome units and 50 duplex units for a total of 154 units. And I wanted to pause quickly and just acknowledge that we did receive public comment that was submitted for this project. When we receive public comment during the review process, we provide a written response to those comments and resubmit it as part of our resubmittal package to the town. Sometimes that isn't possible when comments come in after we're done with those resubmittals and we've been scheduled for hearings, or if the comment comes in just before public hearings. And that is the case with this project and the public comment that we've received. We received public comment just before the Planning Commission meeting and then just a couple of days before this meeting as well. In those cases, when we aren't able to provide a written comment as part of a resubmittal package, we include responses to those comments as part of our presentation. So I just wanted to make you aware that we'll be addressing comments that we received as part of this presentation tonight. All right. So some quick history for the property, because it's been developing for a really long time. And there's probably many of you who have been around here for quite a bit of it, and maybe some of you that are newer to it. So in 1997, the PUD was approved for the overall subdivision. In January 2025, we brought forward a neighborhood master plan and a rezone from PUD to urban residential. As you know, the town's preferred zone districts are the newer zone districts, the R districts, suburban residential, urban residential, moving away from those PUD zone districts. So that was the point of that, and the neighborhood master plan and rezone was approved in that January of 2025. In January of 2026, we took the preliminary plat to Planning Commission, which was unanimously approved, and that brings us to today, where we are here tonight to discuss the preliminary plat as well and request a approval of this document from the town board. All right, let's jump into the plan. So this plan proposes a mix of townhomes and duplexes. You'll notice that we've located the townhomes closer to Mountain Avenue, putting that higher density closer to Mountain Avenue, and then the duplexes closer to the county parcels and the existing homes in the subdivision. We are proposing 2 pocket parks, and we don't have a pointer to be able to point them out to you, but you'll notice there is one sort of centrally located just south of Welch Street, and then there is another one a little bit farther to the east, a little bit west of 4th Street. Those 2 pocket parks we are specifically designing to perform differently. One will be a more active pocket park and one will be a more passive pocket park. We are proposing low water landscape throughout the entirety of this community, and we've integrated more shrubs and bed plantings along the parkways, which I think you guys are now going to start calling tree strips. It'll take me a little while to get used to tree strips. I've been calling them parkways or tree lawns for many decades now, so we'll get that new vocabulary incorporated. The common area landscape for this subdivision will also be using a non-potable system, so it will not be putting any undue burdens on the town's potable supply. Along Mountain Avenue, we're using large planting beds in conjunction with areas of native seed to create year-round visual interest and visual buffering along the regional trail that's proposed along that street. So you'll notice that this preliminary plat looks really similar to the neighborhood master plan. As Ton mentioned, the differences is a reduction in density and an increase in the size of some of our detention facilities. All right, so these are some snapshots of the 2 parks that we're proposing. The park that you see in the top center is our more passive park. We do have some turf grass areas available for people to just be able to hang out. In that area, we're also proposing some seating, some permanent cornhole sets, so just a good place for some quiet hangout, outdoor time. In the center, on the bottom half of that screen, you'll see our more active park. That does include play structure areas, again, some green turf area to run around, shade structures, picnic tables and benches, things of those matters. We will also be extending the neighborhood trail from Pioneer Park up to the regional trail along Mountain with this plat. So if you remember that this entire community was master planned, so Pioneer Park was planned as the primary park for this overall subdivision. These pocket parks within these tracts are above and beyond the park space that was planned for the subdivision as a whole. So a few things that came up, either comments from the community or that we discussed at Planning Commission that I wanted to cover with you guys so that you had the background on it. One of them were some questions about the interface with Mountain Avenue and how these homes were going to work along Mountain Avenue. This area will include a 10-foot regional trail. So we have put together a cross section so you can see what it looks like. Starting from the roadway, we do have those planting areas. And as I mentioned, these tree strips are going to be planted with either small shrubs, ornamental grasses, perennials, and then it'll mix. So we'll have some shrub beds that'll transition to some areas of native, and then we'll transition back to those shrub beds to create some interest. We're also going to get some height, some year-round interest along this trail corridor. And it's also going to help provide a little bit more of a sense of separation and safety for those folks on the regional trail from that roadway. Then you'll see we have that 10-foot trail. Then as you move to the south of that, you'll see that we also have additional landscape area. And then there's a very skinny little line, black line that you'll see sticking up there. Those townhomes will have open rail metal fencing. So it will provide some protection for the folks that live there if they have animals or small kids to keep them from running out into the road. It'll also create just a sense of separation from people on the trail to people's private property. And then beyond that fence, you'll see that there is additional landscape area before you get to where the actual townhome would be sitting. Okay, so some other comments and questions that came up were about how we were addressing parking with this subdivision. So the big point that I want to have you take away from this is that we are exceeding the parking requirements significantly. So if you look at the left side of that table, you'll see the required parking numbers. On the right side of the table, you'll see provided. So we are exceeding the parking requirements by 106 spaces. This does not include allowed on-street parking. So most roads allow on-street parking. That would be above and beyond the 106 that we've calculated. We have distributed guest parking throughout the development as well. And we'll get back to that when we get to the plan. But we have 8 different locations for guest parking. So we have not put it all in one place. We have spread it around so that people have available parking nearby to units that they may be visiting friends or family. Another item I wanted to address is feathering and buffering. So to start, I just wanted to recognize that there is not a code requirement for buffering when you're putting a residential product type adjacent to another residential product type. In this case, we are proposing smaller lot type product, which is very similar with the rest of this community as well. So not only are we proposing residential, but we are proposing very similar residential with smaller residential product types. This is a master plan community. So higher density residential was always considered for this community overall. The PUD envisioned condos, townhomes, and multifamily as appropriate residential product types for this development. So it's always been envisioned that we would have this kind of development here. While it's not a requirement, we are also showing that we have all of our open space sort of located along our roadways that serve as an additional buffer between where we have our houses located and the existing neighborhood. So if you look at Welch and you start sort of on the west side, you'll notice that our detention ponds run along that road. And then we have detention ponds that come down along Pyramid Peak as well. And we have them at the very end of that road as well. So those detention ponds are serving as additional buffering beyond anything that would be needed between those homes and existing homes. And those spaces range anywhere between 50 to 100 feet deep. And then if you look right kind of in the center where we have our duplex lots, those lots that are facing, I'm going to pull up this plan just so you can see it. Those pink lots that are facing the yellow lots on the south side of West Bermuda Road, the intent there with both the north side and the south side is it's an alley loaded product. So it's to have your front doors facing the street to activate the street, front porches, no curb cuts there, and we have an equivalent number of units to the stuff that is already approved and being built on the south side of the street. So we really did try and keep these intentional with the densities that we're showing and kind of that buffering that we're showing as well. So this does bring us to our last slide, which is already up so that you could see those pictures, but we are excited with these being the final phases of a subdivision. As you know, and as you heard, the PUD was approved back in 1997. This project has been in the process of entitlement or construction for many, many years. So it's always nice when you see those last couple of tracks come online and you can see a neighborhood be completed. The plan is in conformance with the municipal code. It is in conformance with the approved zoning and the town's comprehensive and master plans, and it is also consistent with the approved neighborhood master plan. So we are respectfully asking for approval of the preliminary plat tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Trustees, questions for the applicant?
I've got one.
Trustee Hardy.
You talked about the trees along Mountain Avenue, but on your diagram here, it doesn't show any of part of it. I see some on the west side with the Mountain Avenue overlay, but as soon as you kind of get past that, there's no more. So the tree's not going to continue all the way along?
So the trees will be in the tree strip anywhere that they are feasible. There is a good section of the tree strip where we cannot have trees in that area because of existing utilities. We can't meet the separation requirements with existing utilities. The cross section that I showed you showed the trees on the back side of the walk. That is feasible. We don't show that on our renderings because it's private lot landscaping, but it is a requirement to include trees as part of the code on private lot landscaping.
Okay.
So there would be tree cover along Mountain. It'll just be set back behind that walk.
Okay, I was just wondering why they weren't represented, so.
You bet. That's a good question.
Trustee Wing.
Are we going to have a discussion after the public speaks? Then I only have one question. Is this a metro district?
Is this a metro district?
There is not a currently approved service plan for this.
To follow on Trustee Hardy's, are the utilities already in there that the trees would be competing with, or would it be projected utilities that are going
No, correct. If there are existing or if there are proposed utilities, then we work back and forth with the civil engineer to say, how much can you scoot this so that we can fit our trees in? And, it's a little game of Tetris to make sure that you have enough space. These are all existing utilities with the existing road. So they're not something that we can move, and we just need to maintain those separations for safety.
Okay. And then the half mile, this is the regional trail here on 56. That's the 10-foot wide one.
Yes, so the regional trail will be along 56,
Okay.
which will be a 10-foot concrete trail.
And that's the half mile one that you have in the legend here?
Yes.
Half mile of regional trail? Okay.
Yes. And then we'll have a neighborhood trail connecting down to Pioneer Park as well.
Which would be the sidewalk, is that correct? Or is that
Yes, there's a trail piece that comes along the open space there. It'll connect up to that regional trail.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I get I'm trying to understand the trees, and I'm glad we're all thinking on the same vein of thought, but are you saying that the trees can't be in the tree strip, but they can be on the property or near the property, or not at all on that right side?
So the trees will not be in the tree strip along portions of Mountain Avenue. There are some areas where we can fit a few trees in, and we have done that on our landscape plans. But for a good portion of the tree strip, there won't be trees in there. There will be planting in there, so shrubs, ornamental grasses, and perennials. There will be trees located on the south side of the trail or the walk on private property. We don't have conflicts there.
Can you put that cross section back up? I think
Sure.
that will kind of explain now that we've seen the overall.
That's all I have for questions.
Anything else, trustees?
Not now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It is now time for the public comment, public portion of the public hearing. Please remember, public comment is not an interactive question and answer forum, but rather a time for you to provide testimony on a particular item or issue. When you come to the lectern, please provide us with your name and address for the record. We ask that you keep your comments relevant to the application being considered, and we ask that you direct your comments to the Board of Trustees. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. At the 3-minute mark, I will ask that you wrap up your final sentence and take a seat. We understand that these issues before us tonight are important to those involved, and passions understandably run high. We ask you to respectfully listen to everyone's presentations. You may or may not agree with them, but please do not interrupt with applause or other kinds of demonstrations. Please direct your comments to the Board of Trustees, not the applicants or other speakers. After all the public comments have been made, I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing, and at that time, no further public comment may be made after public comment is closed. All right, thank you all. We have, looks like 4 signed up here. We'll start off with John Vander Z. Thank you.
My name is John Vanderzee, 304 Victoria Street, and thank you for this opportunity. This process is somewhat one-sided. The citizens have very little time to state their concerns in the planning department, and the developer will have a lot more time for their case. Citizens can't have any rebuttal, even with some clear distortions here. In brief, you watch. You're being sold a pig in a poke. You'll be told as to how the 104 high-density townhouses, quote, fit the context of the existing development on surrounding properties when nothing could be farther from the truth. You can't find a townhome, particularly these very small ones, anywhere near this side of Berthoud. They ain't there. Further, they will tell you in D of this proposal how this will, quote, mitigate negative impacts on the surrounding properties, when again, nothing could be farther from the actual situation. You look at the placement of these new high-density townhomes in relation to the existing homes there presently. These are single-family detached homes, many there for 20 years. You're now going to drop these high-density townhomes immediately next to these existing detached homes, severely decreasing their value from what they thought they had bought. There is no gradual transition. Instead, there at the minimum should be duplexes next to these existing single-family detached homes consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, and then the townhomes. Then those buying these new duplexes next to those townhomes would know what they're buying, and their property values would reflect that. There's also a huge public safety issue with this as proposed. Tract A of the proposed development will have 31 high-density townhomes. It has one way in and one way out. It has, and this is with these very small garages. That street will have significant on-street parking, whether permitted or not. It's a clear single-point failure area for emergency vehicles getting in there and out. Yesterday, I went and had a very pleasant discussion with the Berthoud Fire Chief. We looked at a plain plat of this. I told him I didn't think anyone would be that stupid to design or approve such a plan in a high-density neighborhood. I convinced myself during this discussion that there had to be another exit. Well, I was wrong, because you look at that plan, you'll see that indeed there's only one way in and one way out without adequate assurances for fire and EMS. I'm a civilian and I picked this up. I'm not on a planning commission or anything, but now the Board of Trustees is informed about this public safety hazard. This proposal, I'm asking that be given a conditional approval or some conditions directing the developer to conform to the development code so that true transitions occur between pre-existing family homes and the townhomes, at least duplexes interjected before the new high-density townhomes. You folks also need to talk to your Berthoud Fire Chief. He's a very pleasant man about those concerns about that exit and entrance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderzee. Appreciate that. Oh, wrong one. Excuse me. Boy, oh boy. I know. That's what I get for putting it in the packet.
Good evening. My name's Jennifer Vanderzee. I live at 304 Victoria Street.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you for listening to my voice and listening to our concerns. I'm speaking as a neighbor 4 units away from Fickle's 5th Edition Parcel Plan A. There's never, ever been an existence of small townhome dwelling sizes in Berthoud as proposed here. All dwellings in Berthoud previously met the 1,600 square foot minimum requirement. There was fraudulent approval of the NMP November 2024, as it did not meet the then required 1,600 square foot townhome minimum lot size. Nor did it mitigate the negative impact the development would have on lower property values for surrounding neighborhoods. A 20 by 71 foot lot separated only by an easement or retention pond to a single family home or multiple duplexes is not a similar like transition, but a clear disruption to our neighborhood. And it is not like the Fickle Farms 4th filings, as it increased from the original 70 to 154 lots, doubled the density. The original plan did call for the development of Fickle's 5th for 70 additional lots. The original plan supersedes all plans of 70 lots, not the 154, to ensure there was no neighborhood design disruption or potential loss of neighborhood property value decline. I'm also not including the safety issues, as overflow parking will happen onto Welch Avenue as no room for a 2-stall garage. And if there were 2 exits into this parcel that fire safety based their approval on, yet only shows 1 exit on their landscaping plan,
As a homeowner, when we acquired this property in 2007, we were only aware of the additional 70 units. I am against these tiny 20 by 71 foot townhomes. I do support similar design and square foot surrounding dwellings to our neighborhood with an appropriate transition away from our neighborhood to appropriate amount of townhomes. If you approve as is, our neighborhood will be the end as we know it. Then just know the door now opens many, many more tiny townhomes in Berthoud, coming to a neighborhood near you in the future. The small town feel of Berthoud community will forever be lost. Please disapprove this fickle fifth plan as is.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Wade Cooper?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. The plat is drafted for approval as Resolution
Mr.
5.
Cooper, I started to interrupt you. Would you mind stating your name and your address for the record? This is for our clerk.
Wade Cooper.
Thank you.
I refuse to give my address.
Ms. Clerk, I've never had this happen before. I don't know what to do.
Privacy information.
It's fine. He can refuse to give it.
Okay, well then this isn't fair, so we're just going to have to do this going forward. This isn't unfair for people that are giving their addresses. Okay, Mr. Cooper, please proceed. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. The plat is drafted for approval as Resolution 5, which specifies compliance with 30-5-101. This plat should be disapproved because it does not comply at least with the following 3 development code requirements, which are included by reference in the review criteria of 30-5-101. The first one being the code purpose is to maintain and enhance property values per 30-1-106A4. Secondly, it doesn't meet 30-5-101D4 requiring the mitigation of negative impacts of the development on surrounding property. And that a subclass of that is E, compatibility of uses, which deals with the gradual transition in densities. The third item is 30-6-101I, density transitions, where proposed residential development includes densities that differ from those of adjacent existing residential neighborhoods. The applicant shall provide a physical buffer between developments and incorporate a gradual transition from higher density to lower density. This is contrary to what she presented as a featured buffer. It is required between residential units where the densities are different. The town of Berthoud was made aware of these non-compliance issues in detail via emails sent prior to this meeting. The time restriction hearing prevents me from going into detail. You have the information all there. In summary, well, first of all, I'd like to say these lots in this development are all significantly lower than all the surrounding lots. The smallest surrounding lot is 2,700 square feet, and that's in Fickle Farm 4. That's a duplex lot. These lots are from 2,125 square feet down to 1,420 square feet. They are substantially smaller than the smallest surrounding lot. In summary, the residential lot densities differ by an average of 6.43 on the west and southwest perimeter, 20 to 120 on the east and northeast perimeter, and 2.17 between Fickle Farm 4th and the 5th filings. So they're twice as small, more than twice as small than the Fickle Farm 4th. They are not consistent. So
Mr.
therefore,
Cooper, we've hit our 3 minutes. If you could just get to your final sentence, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Well, they don't provide the gradual density transition. For clarity purposes, I'm not opposed to the duplex lots being proposed. My
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
objection is to the small, low valuation, high density, row type townhomes,
Thank you,
which
Mr.
are
Cooper.
likely to become rental properties.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you.
Very much appreciate your testimony tonight.
Please consider all my comments.
Excellent. Pam Worcester? And you are not required to provide your address, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Pam Worcester, and I live in 309 Hubble Street.
Thank you.
And that is the second house from Welch Avenue on Hubble Street. So according to this diagram, it is pretty darn close to that one exit where 70 cars have to come out the one exit and hit Welch Avenue. I have been in Fickle Farms since 1999, so I've been around 27 years. When this was developed, there was a trustee on this panel that thought that it would be cute to make Welch Avenue a little bit smaller than the rest of Welch Avenue across going west. So now it is too tight. If there's parking people are parking in front of their houses where the existing homes are, and people parking on the street where the townhouses are, you cannot hardly get two cars in between them to get through there. So if you have a FedEx truck or any other supply truck on that street, one car can go by at a time. Everybody else has to back up. So what's going to happen when you have 70 more cars piling out on Welch Avenue and there is not enough space? What is going to happen if these houses have single car garages, and if they're only 20 foot wide, they're going to have single car garages? How are you going to put two cars in there? You're going to have cars on the streets or in the driveways. People are going to use their garages for storage like everybody does. And there's going to be cars all over creation there. Right now on Welch Avenue, if the lawnmower guy, the landscaping guy, comes with his trailer and pickup, there is not enough space to drive by. So that's just in this northern subdivision of high density. You add on the east part, I don't know how many houses that is, but it looks like probably 100 cars that attaches right on to Welch Avenue. You think they're not going to go on Welch Avenue? You think they're all going to go on to County Road 56? No, there's going to be more people on Welch Avenue than there is on Mountain Avenue at birthdays. It's going to be an entire disaster. Who in the world thought up that there could only be one access in and out of that north one? That is totally insane. Actually, that's as insane as Pyramid Avenue, whatever that name is, that doesn't even run in front of those houses. There is no front parking for those houses. So somebody
Ms. Worcester,
agreed
we've
to
reached our
make
3
that alleyway a street.
Thank you, Ms. Worcester. Thank you for your
So
comments
I
tonight.
totally oppose this. I
you.
live there. This is not a monopoly game. This is not plastic houses. There are people that are affected by this.
Absolutely. Understandable. Thank you very much for your testimony. That concludes those that have signed up. So thank you, Vanderlees, the Cooper, and Ms. Worcester for your testimony tonight. At this time, I'm going to bring it back to the board for deliberation. But before, does the applicant want a rebuttal? And in a rebuttal, just for the folks, this is for the chance for the applicant to address any comments made. And this is a standard part of public hearings.
Thank you. I'll be really brief. There were just a couple of things that I wanted to address. I did want to note that all of these units will have 2-car garages. That was included in our parking calculations. They are not single-car garages. I also wanted to note that all of the submittal documents, each round that we submit to the town is sent out to referral agencies, which does include the Berthoud Fire Protection District. They did review our applications, and I believe it was back in about July or so that they said that we had resolved all of their comments. So they are aware of the plan. They did review the plans, and they had noted that they provided written comment to staff that we had resolved all of their comments.
Please speak into the speaker, please. I can't hear you.
Sure, I can try and speak up a little bit as well.
Thank you.
Better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the final piece that I wanted to address was just there were a lot of comments about the uses that are proposed on this preliminary plat. As you're aware, with a preliminary plat, we are required to bring a plan that is in compliance with your codes and master plans and also is in compliance with the approved neighborhood master plan. So the neighborhood master plan did come before you about a year ago, a little over a year ago or so, where those specific uses and locations were noted. And that plan was approved. So it is our responsibility to bring a plan that is in compliance with that neighborhood master plan. Otherwise, we would bring you a new neighborhood master plan if we were proposing something different. With this plat, we did reduce the density as well. So we came down from, I think, 165 lots to 154. And that's all I have, unless you have follow-up questions for me. Yes.
I have one question for her, Will. Yes. In one of the documents, I read that the foundational walls in the garage would actually be less than the 20 feet. I don't know exactly what the code is. Do you know, or does anyone know? Are we okay with the foundation walls on the side of the garage?
Sorry, madam. I'm sorry. We just can't have a dialogue. I hate to do this, but we just can't have a dialogue.
I don't have the specifics on foundational walls. What I can tell you is that these are standard garage sizes. They are industry standard. They're used on product type all over the place. And so they are 2-car garages.
Okay.
I have had one of them before. They're tight, but they work. We just have to not store a bunch of stuff in our garage.
And again, I'm just going off of something I read, and I thought it said technically you can't advertise a 2-car garage if it's less than 20 feet. So I don't need any further answer on that specific item.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You bet.
Planner Hillenbrand, do you have anything to add?
So Mayor Karspek, so garage sizes are not part of the land use code or land use development, so part of this process. So the review of the actual buildings would come with building permit. And of course, as Kristen pointed out, garage sizes would be based upon industry standard. And we don't, for land use regulations, require 1-car garage, 2-car garage.
Okay.
We don't have to provide a garage. As long as they're meeting parking requirements, and they're showing that, as we've noted in the staff report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I had a question. So now we'll bring it back to the board here for deliberation. Generally, this would be our comments or any kind of. I just had a quick clarifying question though regarding Mr. Vanderzee's comments about the fire district. But we do have a reply dated yesterday from the fire district, confirming that there is multiple ways out.
That is correct. So we did follow up with Chief Charles on the conversation, and he did provide us an email correspondence confirming what that discussion was and that the access is adequate per Berthoud Fire. Marshal Carrie Dan also did provide me just this evening while we're sitting here a follow-up confirming again that her previous reviews are still consistent and they do not have any concerns with the access.
And just to be more specific, what he stated was there actually is more than one in and out.
So the access is adequate. So if there is one access point, there are width requirements, there are weight requirements, so the weight of a fire apparatus expectation. And then and I know Luke can speak to this more eloquently than I can, there are distances of that drive or that alley that certain lengths have to be met for a fire apparatus and turning around. And so as long as all those fire components, code requirements are being met, they can then, of course, give their blessing on the development. And so Marshall Carrie Dan, like I said, did provide me an email this evening, and she confirmed that each of the Witts, Stable Grove, Apricot Grove Place, Big Bean Cherry Lane, and Orchard Crest Road are all consistent at 20, 22 feet, 24 feet, and 26 feet. And she is confirming that the design of the roadways meet the code requirements, and specifically Section 503.2.1 of the 2024 International Fire Code.
And Mayor Karsbeck, I don't know. I'm sorry. I think that Ton's microphone is cutting in and out. But I think just to sum up, what she's saying is that we've spoken to the fire marshal, and they've confirmed that the codes are met with this project.
Yeah. Thank you for answering my question. All right, trustees, anything else at this time?
Yeah.
Trustee Wing, please.
So again, just to restate. First of all, it is very emotional when you've got a home and you've lived there, and you feel like you're being negatively impacted. So I appreciate that. I mean, I know it's a big deal to you. Usually your home is your biggest investment. So certainly understand the concerns out there that are being voiced. Having said that, we are adhering to the land code. We are adhering to all of the town's plans, policies, and codes. So those are kind of the facts. In our packet, our illustration is just slightly different than what you showed. In yours, you do show more park area and open space to the adjacent properties. Ours doesn't show quite as much. And I just wanted to say, from the visual you'd showed and partially what we're seeing, it seems like you did go out of your way to try to create a buffer. Semantically, I don't know if a park is defined as a buffer, but it looks like you did attempt to create a buffer between the adjacent properties. And then the comment that the duplex lots are just as big as the existing lots. That would seem like we have, a comparable sized home going in adjacent to the existing homes. We continue to talk over and over and over again about affordable housing. Townhouses and duplex certainly are more affordable than single family homes. So we kind of can check that box. And then Mountain Avenue is certainly an incredibly important thoroughfare for the town. And do we ever get to see the elevations, the architecture of these properties, or is that out of scope for us?
Typically, it's not. Go ahead. Thanks.
So certainly staff may see the architectural design through our architectural review. So in this particular case, that comes with building permit, and we do have an architectural review process to ensure, the expectations for color and that
Sure.
we're not getting super.
So they meet all
repetitive.
that, but the board doesn't
But the board,
technically
correct.
have an opportunity to view
That's
it
correct.
or really give input. Okay. Mayor, I believe that's all I had to comment on.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Wing. Trustee Hardy? How do you feel about this?
My concern is about the garages again. So they're saying they're 2-car garages. Was that counting part? That's including the parking, right? When they say they've got the 1.5 cars per unit.
So garages are calculated as part of the overall parking, and then there's additional on-site parking spots that they've included in those calculations.
So if they come back to you with the building permit and you notice the garage isn't big enough to hold 2 cars of today's standards, would you?
Then that certainly would be a concern. I don't know that we've ever experienced that. Again, the expectation is that, these product types, there's industry standard. I mean, manufactured garage doors that are made in mass. So you don't typically, and of course I'm not a builder or developer, but typically you don't, in rare cases, do you do a unique special size to a garage, as that will increase, your cost. Yeah. So doing what is typically manufactured is the probably less costly route to go.
And do we know if these driveways are long enough to park the car outside the garage door, or is it street curb?
And I would allow Kristen to address that question. I don't believe they were going to accommodate a full-length vehicle.
And I don't think driveways were not included in the parking calculation, I believe.
Okay,
So
that's just kind of what I'm concerned because, so many cars are big now. So it's like, I see these people buy houses and they try and stick their F-250 in there and it sticks out the garage door 2.5 feet.
I will say that is a common problem, or maybe I wouldn't even describe it as a problem. It is a common situation. I'm sure this is true for lots of folks, but when I lived in the Heritage Ridge subdivision in a new home, when I first took the position here 8 years ago, we bought a house with a 3-car garage. My F-150, which is not, a massively oversized vehicle, a standard full-size pickup truck, would not fit in the third bay of that garage. And so it's not uncommon that most garages are not designed to fit 2 large trucks, full-size SUVs in today's market. That's not to say that that's not a possibility, but I would say that is standard in the market, even with much larger homes on much larger lots.
My concern is just the calculation. We've been told that they've overdone it and they're going to allow for, more cars than they're supposed to.
Mhm.
But then when it comes down to actually building it, these garages aren't going to be feasible enough to be actually counted as, the garage is probably going to be 1.5-car garage, which is what our code is.
And, if somebody has 2 sedans, they'll likely very well fit in a 2-car garage. And if somebody has, an F-250 and a Suburban, they probably will not.
Yeah,
and so what I think helps with that is that there is on-site parking off the street. Those calculations were included in your presentation. That's not, and we have townhomes all over town, as you well know. New townhomes have been built in mass over the last 10 years. There are projects I can think of. The townhome project on 8th Street has standard 2-car garages. Excuse me, not 8th Street. Yes, 8th Street. Sorry, I'm right about that. The townhome project on 8th Street has standard 2-car garages. If you go by there on a given Saturday and a lot of those garage doors are open, a lot of them are filled with boxes and furniture. There's not cars in them. Every one of the on-site parking spaces is often taken. But, again, anecdotally, having lived in that townhome project, we never had a problem finding a parking space on site. So those are reasonable things to be concerned about. I think that in the context of what's being proposed, it far exceeds our requirements. And so even at our minimum requirement, we would expect that they have met the code and that would not disqualify them from being approved. And they far exceeded that requirement with the parking spaces that have been provided on site, whether that's in 2-car garages or on-site visitor or resident parking. And again, the reality is, in every residential street in town that I can think of allows for on-street parking. That is our standard design. So to expect that there will not be cars parked on the street is unreasonable, and I would never tell anyone that was going to be the case. Even in subdivisions where their HOAs choose to prohibit on-street parking, the town does not enforce that because town public right-of-way does allow for parking on street.
Yeah, because there's no HOA or metro district in this neighborhood, right?
Currently, that's true. On the HOA side, I shouldn't jump in. There is not a currently approved Metro District service plan. I would expect that there will be a homeowners association to help maintain common areas and all that. Yeah.
There's an HOA though, isn't there?
Could you repeat that? Can we get this on somewhere with a mic?
Yeah. What he said was that there is an existing HOA for the subdivision. They're intending to submit a Metro District service plan for you to review, but there is not currently one that is approved.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. Trustee Hardy, anything else to add?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Brody?
I just remember the public comment on the width of Welch Avenue, and it somehow differs from another portion of Welch Avenue. Is that the case, Mr. Kirk?
Welch Avenue west of First Street is pretty wide. A lot of those downtown streets are, it's not as wide as like 3rd or 4th Street, which are humongous. Welch Avenue, as designed, meets our standard. Maybe that's the easiest way to describe it, even in this subdivision.
Same width as any other new neighborhood.
It is a required, we have required minimum widths for roadways that accommodate on-street parking and travel lanes.
And what
Is that the Lucas standards?
What is that width?
Oh, shoot, I don't know off the top of my head.
And this might be, I believe the lady that spoke earlier was talking about the section between Pyramid Peak and First Street, which I believe is slightly narrower. I do not know the width offhand for that, but the standard local street width that Welch is in most areas of town would be 34 feet, which includes, assumes 2 sides parking and 2 travel lanes.
The Welch Avenue right-of-way, I think, is 58 feet. Does that sound right, Luke?
Yeah, that's pretty standard.
Okay. Anything else, Trustee Brody? Do you have any questions regarding that, or do you want staff to look into that a little more?
No, I was just I'm
Yeah.
trying to read the map here too and kind of see what the numbers say for myself.
Yeah, no problem.
It looks,
The street right-of-way width on Welch is 58 feet.
Trustee Albrecht, do you have any thoughts right now?
Sure. I first of all, I'm so grateful for the passionate commentary. I think that helps. I know it helps me tremendously, not just look at the, oversight of the entire project, but to see it from firsthand what you guys are experiencing with this project. So thank you. I can appreciate the comments about the egress on parcel A. I mean, if you have a cul-de-sac, you have one way and one way out, but that's like 6 houses or 7 houses versus this, which is multiple units. And so I can understand why there's some concerns with that. And I would be open to requesting a condition that there is a second egress option on parcel A to mitigate that concern. My other biggest concern is the density along Mountain Avenue and the aesthetic as you're entering our community and the small town charm. I think having a row of high density, it does not lend itself to that aesthetic at all. My recommendation would be that the units adjacent to Mountain Avenue on parcel B would become a larger unit, like a townhome, or the duplex instead of a townhome. And then with requirements that there is some type of tree plantings to buffer the appearance of the density. I just think of just south of there, the other development, the townhomes there are very, in my opinion, very bland and very not aesthetic or attractive. And I would hate to see that type of design right on our entrance to our community that doesn't lend itself to historic charm. If there was a way to make these historical and look like little farmhouses, then that's great, but I don't think that's the intent. And so I personally can't support that density along Mountain Avenue unless there's some changes in required trees. And I think, and then generally everything meets the requirements. And I would also second Trustee Wing's comments that we talk a lot about affordable housing and we need more diverse product on the market for our community to be able to grow and even just like children who are growing and need homes or new families that are in our community that need an affordable place to live. And so we have to consider these product types in some form. And so I appreciate seeing something brought before us regarding that. And that's...
Thank you. Okay. All right. Mayor Pro Tem?
I wanted to thank the public for showing up. I really took a long look at this project, and the comments were very pointed and specific, and it really caused me to have some doubts on this project. But I also wanted to say I appreciate the applicants for showing up and doing their best to address these questions that were raised. Hearing the discussion here tonight, I'm satisfied with the answers from the applicant and staff on the direction for this development. I don't have issues moving forward.
Okay, thank you. For the most part, I do agree with Mayor Pro Tem. I am concerned after Trustee Hardy has spoken, and I think this is just a general issue we're going to run into now, is just calling things spaces, but they're not going to be enough for a modern vehicle, so they might not be used in that category. And I know the applicant's providing extra spaces, but I think that's just something to be aware of going forward. And Trustee Albrecht comments here are interesting to me. I'm just trying to process my head around it. If you made a condition, you were thinking about just reducing the density up front.
Larger lot sizes, especially, it looks like parcel A has sufficient tree lawns that might buffer kind of the appearance of density, but on parcel B, if there's, intermittent trees and just a long row of dense housing, I would prefer we have larger lot sizes, at least on one of those parcels adjacent to mountain, just to...
Claire, could you put that map up? Thank you. I'm trying to scramble here to try and find that picture.
Do you want this image? Is this good?
That's
or?
what I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Trustee Albrecht, you're saying to the right or to the south of, to the east of Pyramid Peak Street, just out of concern for not having a tree lawn or just the amount of density?
I think she's talking about Wild Grove.
The combination. So
both.
No, so Orchard Crest Road, and just as a form of compromise with the developer, since there's trees, I think mitigating the views of the high density housing on the west side. On the east side, there's not, the density of trees, and we still have high density housing. And I don't think that housing is going to look like the aesthetic of small town charm. And I'm concerned about that being the entrance to our community is really dense housing that doesn't have sufficient trees.
Okay. Fair point.
Yeah.
Anything to add after that?
Yeah, I just want to reaffirm, this adheres to the land code. It's in compliance with the plans, policy, and codes. It fits everything we expect. Again, that is, to your point, it is why I brought up the elevation, because I'm just telling you, speaking from experience, I have seen the most beautiful townhouses that put any houses to shame. So it's all about what it looks like at the end of the day. And you could be wowed by it, even though it's compact. You could have 2 or 3 units that look like one. I mean, it's all how they do it. So it's my final comments.
Okay, thank you.
And I do agree with those comments. I just want to state I'm referencing the units just south of there. I would not want as the entrance to Berthoud. They're not what I would consider appealing townhomes.
Could you just, when you say south, I think I know what you mean, but would you call out the street you're referring to?
I don't know the exact street, but I think it's the grayed out one there.
Pyramid Peak or 56?
Well, the names on your screen, do you not see the street
I
names?
don't.
Oh.
Sorry.
Very slight. Is that what you're referring to up here?
No, south of this development.
Oh, the adjacent adjoining property?
Yeah. And I don't know, I don't know what our parameters are for requesting aesthetics. I don't think there are any, but I would hate to say that we didn't talk about that, discuss it at this time, and have those go up.
Yeah.
I think that's excellent. Attorney Sellers.
Sorry, so if I may, I just want to, before the board makes any decision, just to guide you back to the criteria that's in that staff report. So whether you approve, deny, or place conditions on the application, I would like you from the record to tie it back to that criteria in some way, if that's your decision tonight. So I just wanted to give that little legal guidance before you start making your decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I guess I've lost to speak on that. Trustee Albrecht, I think your points are very well taken in my book. I actually like some of the examples inside Pickle Farm of their townhomes. I walked through them today. I thought, to me, they're very appealing. So it might be just the eye of the beholder. But, I 100% agree with Trustee Wing here too. That it's really a lot of this is how things work.
Yeah.
I'll stop with that. I am right now in favor of this. Is there anything else before we go for a vote?
So I have a question. Do
Yes.
we go for a vote, or do we go through the...
It's up to the board. If you would like to go through the criteria and discuss each one, you certainly can. or you can.
I'd rather go through a vote.
Well, so Attorney Sellers, I guess I'm confused here because we do have a suggested, if we wanted to approve or if we wanted to deny, but we didn't have to reference each one in there. But you want us to do that now?
No,
Oh.
I don't. No, I was just, my point was is that especially if you deny or you place conditions, they need to be tied to
What
the
are they?
criteria.
Right, yes.
Yeah, when you make your case
Fair
as a trustee or
right.
mayor.
I move to approve Resolution 26-05, a resolution of the Town of Berthoud, Colorado, approving a preliminary plat for a development known as Fickle Farm Fifth Filing Development in the Town of Berthoud.
Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Wing has moved. Trustee Brody has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Brody,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
No.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes. All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Again, understanding this is very passionate.
And if I could just make the comment, my no is not to the overall development, it's just to the two conditions not being added to it before it moved forward. Does that make sense?
Say it again, please.
My no was not to the
Oh.
overall development, just the fact that we didn't include those two conditions that I felt were important.
Respect that very much.
Thank you.
I'd just say going forward, if you want to put those conditions out first, that helps with the rest of us when we vote. Okay. I mean, I'm sorry, I meant putting them as part of a motion. So if you wanted to do that, instead of trusting Wing doing that, you would have done that. But
Sure.
I understand where you come from.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on now to item number 5 here. And folks don't feel any need to stay. And this will be the board member compensation. I'll turn over to Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Karspeck and trustees. As you'll recall, at our last town board meeting in January, there was a brief discussion about board member compensation and the possibility of the board reviewing and considering increases to the current trustee compensation relative to other jurisdictions in our region and our market. We've gathered up some information for you about what other mayors and trustees are compensated for their service in jurisdictions around us. We included that in your packet. I think what it generally shows is that within the North Front Range in particular, our compensation for the service that you provide in your roles as trustees or mayor is below what our neighboring jurisdictions provide. You all know how much time and energy goes into your service. Even at the rates, I would argue, it is my opinion, that you're probably undercompensated for the amount of time that you spend relative to the marketplace in particular. But I highlighted the municipalities in blue that are kind of within our area. Boulder has already approved a change that'll be effective later this year. I did not include that. This is their current compensation. Boulder is certainly a different community, but even in the context of Johnstown or Louisville, Lafayette, Lyons, Meade, similar communities to us, both in size and maybe scope. The one outlier is probably Wellington, and they are well below what we already cover for council pay. So there are other, possibilities within the context of compensation. The most common is that trustees or the mayor will also get access to the recreation center, either at no cost or additional or a discounted cost. But typically outside of that, it's a standard monthly payment, or it is based on a per meeting payment, often with a not to exceed amount. So what we're suggesting that you might consider is that the current board member and compensation, which is $200 per meeting for the mayor, not to exceed $600 a month, and $150 per meeting, not to exceed $450 per month for trustees, that be increased to $500 per meeting for the mayor, with a maximum of $1,500 per month, and $350 per meeting for each trustee, with a maximum of $1,050 per month. So up to three meetings a month covered under your compensation. And that you would also, I say you, none of these will apply to you unless you're reelected. Sorry, I'll go back and address that here in a minute.
Clarifying
Yeah.
that. We're not giving the current board a raise.
Yeah, the current board cannot give itself a raise, so I should have addressed that right from the get-go.
So I would direct staff to prepare an ordinance modifying the pay based on the recommendations you made.
I'll second.
I actually would rebuttal that,
Okay.
only because I think Birth is growing, and if we have more than 2 meetings a month or 3, should we be compensating those future board members for a 4th meeting?
Do you want to just increase the max but keep the meeting
Increase
thing at the
max,
same?
just in case that we
Okay.
have to bump up to, if they are doing more, I want them to be compensated for it. And
Yep.
then
per
the
meeting.
other thing I had a question about was, do they ever compensate board members for attending alternative meetings like the committee meetings and being a liaison for other commissions?
I think the short answer from our research is that's not common. So it's typically for the meetings that you attend here in this room. Obviously, that's intended to also kind of cover the fact that you're going to be attending events and activities and committee meetings, and you might go to workshops or seminars, trainings, those kinds of things. But that the pay is driven by the meeting time,
I have to
the meetings
say,
here in this
I think
room.
that's a really good point. The people that are on committees and showing up, I wonder if we could ask for a reduced, I'm making this up, but $100 for those. But I mean, I don't know that there's anything legally stopped, but I think it's a real. I'm not on a committee, kind of, but
Well, and I think the incentive for future boards to be engaged in that capacity, and there's a reward attached to it, like your time is valuable and you're representing the community. I think there's value to that, for sure.
And just for clarity for me, are you suggesting for as serving as a board liaison to the board committee or the youth advisory committee or the HPAC?
on meetings you attend.
Or are we talking about any meeting that you might attend?
I'd say official town meetings such as the committee and commission meetings.
I agree.
Okay.
Not if we go to a park for a ribbon
Yeah,
cutting.
yeah. I mean, if
No.
there's a Berthoud
No,
Chamber of
that's-
Commerce
that's on
event.
us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What about stuff that are like NPO is the only one I could think of, like you're pretty much obligated to attend, but it's not an official town meeting, but it's all the governments coming together.
So what you could also consider is not a per meeting cost and just a flat rate per month that you think is reasonable for the amount of time that's spent. And then that will just cover you generally. I will say selfishly, from a staff standpoint, it's easy for us to track when you're here and when you're not. It's a little, what we don't want you to do is start filling out a timesheet.
Right.
I was here at this meeting on this day and this meeting on this day. That starts to get kind of wonky from a tracking standpoint. So it's a little bit easier for us. We know when you're here. That's really easy.
Like mom and dad are checking if you went to school or not.
Yeah, yeah.
I like the pay to play. You
so-
got to be at the meeting.
I'd like to compensate us enough for
That's
these
fair.
meetings that when we do the board committee or the HPAC meetings, it's kind of built into that ultimate fee.
I think
And then the max is
that's a reasonable approach as well. I
I'll
think
take my
I
thing
think
about the
all of
NPO
this
out, 'cause
is
that's generally the mayor anyways, and there's an obligation of the mayor gets paid a little bit more.
Yeah,
That's the obligation.
that's a good
for that.
point.
that is true. That is typically why the mayor gets paid more, because there's some expectation that you're going to be involved more often in things. I do think committee and commission meetings is a reasonable point to be made. So I don't know that we have a strong preference. I think you can make a good case for all of the above. And so a lot of it comes down to what do you think is appropriate as the town board in making that legislative decision.
Well, I appreciate things being concise for staff and consistent for future boards. And so I think a good compromise would be to lock in the $1,500 per month for mayor, $1,050 for trustee, and that covers the monthly stipend. And then it doesn't flex based on meetings. It's kind of right in the middle, and it stays consistent for them and consistent for you, and that kind of maybe covers some of those gaps for them as they.
And I may offer, if you want to look at it this way, maybe there's even a hybrid to that, which is you'd suggested that, hey, there should be allowance for the up to 4 meetings a month, which I don't think is unreasonable. So maybe you do a base monthly stipend that covers up to 3. And then if there's a 4th meeting, town board meeting in particular, then you get another per meeting payment on top of that. That's going to be rare. I mean, it's not often that we have 4 meetings in a month, but I do think as the community grows and as things continue to change, that might be something that the board wants to do more often. And so, that would kind of, you'd still get the potential to get covered for 4 board meetings. You'd have a set monthly stipend for board service. And then,
But if we don't set a max, that would cover if there was 4 meetings.
if you do it on a per meeting basis,
Yeah.
what I think I'm hearing Trustee Albrecht say, and so please, if I misunderstood you, correct me, was like maybe we just say there's a flat $1,500 a month for the mayor and a flat $1,050
Is
per
that
month
what
for
you
the
were saying?
trustees.
That I think would be a fair compromise based on staff's recommendation to keep it consistent and simple. And I
Oh.
think that would, probably be fair for future boards too.
And I will argue, I think, I also understand Trustee Wing's point of like, hey, it's kind of a pay to play. If you don't show up, you don't get paid. I think if you don't show up, your constituents are going to make sure you hear about it eventually anyway. So, that's always something you can be mindful of.
Well, especially if there's an increased stipend, there should be an increased expectation on performance from the community for.
Well,
the
shall we vote on two options? One is you get paid for each meeting. The other is it's a flat monthly stipend. Is that the two options you're hearing?
Well, is there anyone that really? I think the monthly stipend. Is there anyone that wants to go by it per meeting?
I like to go by per meeting.
I do as well.
I think it incentivizes attendance.
I do too.
Okay. Okay, and then I have no skin in this game, but you want to do it per.
What do you think?
I like them both, really. I
like a per meeting with a higher max.
See, I thought your point at the end was because it's getting doubled, that sort of would take care of if you attended a committee meeting. I thought that's where you're going, but maybe that's not where you're going.
Well, yes, essentially. I think if the 3 meetings you're paid that monthly regardless, it's a flat fee. It kind of compensates for when there's extra meetings and not extra meetings. But it's consistent for the board and the staff members throughout the year. I could see that being.
I think they're both great to answer your question. Maybe for simplicity, I kind of like your one monthly thing, but I think Trustee Wing, the way to do this is the vote probably. Just had one quick question. Is anyone interested in is we doing a rec center?
I think so for what it's worth, every full-time employee receives a rec center membership. And then if they want to add a spouse or a family, they can do that at their cost. But that's normal for employees. So this seems like a reasonable thing to do for
I agree.
the trustees as well.
So it's a good example to show.
And you don't have to take it. Not every employee says, yes, I want a membership, because we actually pay the rec center for those memberships as part of our employee benefits. So if a trustee if they're not going to utilize it, they don't have to take it, but it's offered as part of that compensation.
So would that be a full price for additional family members, or would it be a reduced rate?
It's a full price. So like for town staff, we cover the cost of the individual membership. The full price difference between that and a family membership is the responsibility of the employee.
If I was married and had kids that were young enough, I'd have to pay the family rate. Well, then I'm getting a free membership, but then I got to pay the family rate.
Minus your
membership.
Okay.
So I'm going to get the number wrong off the top of my head, but
That's
it's like,
what I
it's $750 for a family and $450 for an individual. That $300 difference is the responsibility of the employee or the trustee.
All right. Just want clarification on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair.
So you guys in favor of that?
The rec center, I am certainly am.
I am too.
I don't know if I'll use it, but still.
Not that I would use it, but you can tell.
Yeah, it's a good incentive. We need any incentive we can get. We got 4 people coming into 4 spots, so that's a good sign now. So which one do you want to start with?
Would you want to do a vote or?
It sounds like there's people passionate about either way, so I think we need to do a vote.
Pick one and
Regular 3% increase was part of that, correct?
Oh, I did suggest that we just do that annually, that's pre-approved in the ordinance, so that it will generally keep up a little bit. We won't have to worry about it quite as often.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's not consensus for my suggestion, that's okay. We can go with the other offering.
Does anyone else feel particularly passionate about a flat rate monthly?
I mean, for me, it's just I want to make sure that people show up to meetings, right? For, board trustee that's missed some meetings because of work, I don't feel like I should have been compensated for the meetings, and the way it's currently structured, I wasn't, so I felt good about that. But
that's fair.
I second that.
But I'm the chief offender here, so I probably should not think about it that way. So.
Is there a consensus to increase the max to include up to 4 meetings compensation?
I say no max.
I think that's also reasonable.
Max?
I mean,
There's more meetings than they should be compensated. Sure.
I like that.
Okay.
It's got to be self-governing.
I don't think that the board is going to.
More than 4 meetings a month. So
Yeah.
My guess is that future boards won't either. So, I don't think they'll be scheduling meetings just to get an extra $300 or whatever. I hope, but yeah, that's.
Okay. We all sound good at that?
Good. You got it. You clear?
No 2 ski passes. Like
I would like somebody to just
No free water and sewer?
summarize for me so I know exactly in one
Well, we're not
sentence?
seeing on this page what the recommendation is. We're all
M-
have it in our head.
I'll reiterate my recommendation and I'll summarize and you tell me if I got this right. The recommendation is that the mayor's compensation be increased to $500 per meeting attended.
Scroll down.
With no cap. That the trustees, that each individual trustees compensation be increased to $350 per meeting with no cap.
Perfect.
That there be a 3% annual increase adjusted upwards in January of each year, and that each trustee will receive the option to have an individual membership at no cost to the Berthoud Rec Center.
And these are board meetings.
And these are board meetings that would include work sessions or special meetings.
Right.
And we'll draft the ordinance accordingly unless you tell me otherwise, but that we will bring back to you for consideration at your next meeting.
Good.
Excellent.
Excellent. Thank y'all.
So
Great suggestion, Trustee Albrecht, to bring this up. Thank you. Always good. Good waiting another decade and then
That's
so
okay.
far behind.
Conversation.
Okay, let's move on now to reports. We'll start off with Trustee Albrecht.
I have nothing to report.
Trustee Brody.
Nothing on my side either.
Trustee Hardy.
Just Berthoud Main Street's been meeting quite a bit with local shop owners and business operators and property owners. And we've also been meeting as a board quite often. We're getting all our P's and Q's and T's crossed and I's dotted, and been working with Main Street, Colorado.
What do they pour paper board meeting?
Nothing. So at least in our bylaws that we've written so far. So hopefully we'll have a presentation for the town board here soon.
Awesome. Okay, great. Trustee Wing.
Yeah, I attended the Main Street meeting as well, and that group is pretty adamant that, and I understand it, that they want to keep the old town flavor, which that gets talked about all the time. What that could potentially create, though, is a real challenge to get a destination to downtown. The two, again, I'll use this, but don't hold me to, but like a Costco, right? That you're going to generate 45,000 people. We're not going to put a Costco on Main Street, right? But if you put one on one of the ends of the town, you could get some amazing traffic through there. But anyhow, I thought it was good. They were all very passionate, so it was good. I also did I don't know what the exact name is for it, but the chocolate tour.
Chocolate walk.
Yeah, did you do it?
No.
It was cool. It got you into some businesses I didn't even know existed. Some people like really did like a artisan cookie, and then some gave you a Hershey Kiss. So the rewards were pretty dramatically different, but it got you walking around town and interfacing, and I think the numbers were pretty good. They set a cap and they reached
200.
that. I do want something we did change, and I just want to recognize it. The fact that you put presentations on every one of these items is so helpful. I can't even tell you. So we didn't always do that, and it's really helpful. Now, the fifth filing we did not have her presentation, and it actually would have been nice if we did. We had the towns.
Yeah, I was trying to go back.
But I don't,
Right. We didn't
because it
have
would
the
have been nice to
applicant's
look at hers while she was talking and jump around to the visuals. But anyhow, that's it, sir.
No, that's great. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
No, I attended the chocolate walk as well and took my daughter as a date, and she said it was the best day ever.
Cool.
And
Very cool.
no, I wanted to thank everyone involved on that. It was a phenomenal event. I had a blast and really learned a lot about our businesses. The second thing I wanted to bring up is I attended a TSD bond meeting discussing the upgrades to Berthoud L and Ivy Stockwell. The school district is moving very fast on these projects. They are at the front of the line for their objectives for the bond spending. So they are diving right into design this fall, and they're going to be tackling security primarily at both buildings, but it's also upgrading additional lab or classroom space for both facilities to bring them more in line with K through 5 standards across the state. It also sounds like we're going to be getting AC at Berthoud L with this project, as well as really substantial addition to Ivy Stockwell.
Ivy's not getting AC.
I'm not sure on the status on that one. Regarding their expenditures, they're going to be expanding out to have more of a comprehensive remodel on both buildings, pending kind of their budgeting and expenditures on the actual additions. So it's all moving very fast. They're hoping to have it done by fall of 27, if I heard them right. So definitely reach out if you have any questions or concerns to that crew. But really exciting to see us first at the table for that.
Hey, Sean, I saw a message, I think it's from the superintendent, if that's his title, but he said because of the budget shortfall for Colorado, the Thompson School District is going to get impacted $3.5 million, and you know, that could have a serious impact on operations. Do you have any insight, or did you hear anything
I
on that?
haven't heard anything on that. I've been following kind of the state level stuff. I think they're going to make adjustments and stuff, but I haven't heard anything that would be impacting the construction.
They're tight already, and he thought...
A lot of the construction is happening now because Berthadell and Ivy Stockwell, from my understanding, are the big ticket items, and you want to knock those out, obviously, before things go up in cost. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. But, stay tuned. That's all I've got.
I do have to say it's exciting that Berthoud has a current president of the school district now. So Stu Boyd took the president's seat of the Thompson School District, so he's really easy to contact if you have questions, Trustee Wing, and he's really great to work with. But he's a Berthoud native and has done great things for his community, and he's currently working with staff to talk about a potential new location for a youth center. So it's nice to have Berthoud well represented in that room.
I just thought of something. Could you put on future agenda just potential options for the Sunoco building?
I fully intend to bring options back to you. We've been evaluating a couple different ones. My thought is that it didn't make sense to start that conversation until after the April election, just because of we'll have 3 new trustees on the board in April, and so one thing that we are going to talk about at the next meeting is staff's put together an onboarding, a formal onboarding process that I hope that all 7 trustees will participate in this first go round together, which I think would be really valuable. Extensive trainings, tours of facilities, and then a strategic planning effort that follows that up very, very closely so that we can kind of get kicked off all on the right foot. I think the Sunoco project, as well as the other 2 downtown redevelopment projects, are a critical part of that conversation. So I would expect it to happen very soon after the April election.
I don't know if it was appropriate, but Arno, who's going to be on our board, was in the audience tonight, but I didn't call. Huh?
Is he here?
He's here for the whole meeting, but he left.
Hey, that's great.
But again, I didn't know if it was appropriate to introduce him, but anyhow, I think he got a lot of it.
And we will talk about this a little bit at the next meeting, but we will do some, I hope, initial training and orientation with the new trustees prior to their election, because we know who the 4 will be, assuming nobody changes their mind. So we'd like to get that process started before the election, which we wouldn't normally do, but because there's 4 candidates for 4 seats, we can get a little head start.
Yeah, that's great, Chris.
So we'll be going through that. A formal onboarding process was a good suggestion from Trustee Brody.
Very good.
So hopefully you guys will have some great feedback about that. I think we've got a really good plan put together, and it'll focus on kind of first 2 weeks, first 30 days, and then first 90 days of kind of how to get everybody oriented and heading in the right direction.
Administrator Kirk and I met with Boulder County Commissioner Marta Loachman last Friday, and just discussed relationships on 287 between Longmont and Berthoud, and having kind of a coordinated open house regarding CDOT's proposed right-in, right-out access, and then kind of just gave updated status of where the town is with that. It's pretty devastating if this CDOT keeps down this course, but luckily Chris and staff are well aware of what's going on, and hopefully CDOT will be a little more flexible here so we can have some more intersections. Spartan won't be a question anymore. It sounds like CDOT right now is kind of questioning if Spartan should be an intersection, and fully confident in staff that we can let them know how important that is to the community. Administrator Kirk and I are going to meet with Excel rep Hans, he gave us a presentation last week, but he wanted to have his coffee with us and kind of update. I do intend to bring up the public safety power shut off and just the effect on our main street. I know they're probably overloaded with that same information everywhere, but that needs to be said. So
They need to hear it.
yeah, they need to hear it. Hans is a good guy. Next week I'll be attending the CML Legislative Day next Thursday. So in the morning we'll be meeting with legislatures, and in the afternoon kind of hear hot topics. I'll use that as an opportunity to meet as many people I can on the Transportation Committee about rail. Last Thursday at our NPO, learned a little bit more about rail updates. There'll be town halls in each community that's getting a stop, even though at the last meeting I asked them to consider Berthoud, even though we're not getting one, that we should get a town hall. They said no. There is going to be a late introduced bill by some Democrat. They don't know who he is yet, or the rep, our rail rep doesn't know. So I'm going to try to find who this person is, but they're looking into redrawing the district boundaries. And it sounds like this is to be in favor of some, I don't quite get it, but some other communities that aren't Berthoud. She was saying this probably doesn't affect Berthoud getting out of the district. So unless you guys object, I'd like to use that time with the legislators to try and just talk them into Berthoud's situation of, we either get some kind of wording on the ballot as part of next November's passenger rail that we get a secondary stop, or they consider removing us from the district. But it's kind of an untenable position we are at right now, where we're not paying for nothing. So I hope that's generally acceptable.
Absolutely, thank you.
Cool.
Well, for the record, I'm still not in favor of Berthoud having a stop, but I am seriously supporting you because you've been a champion for this and it's important for you. So I feel conflicted by that because I think you have a vision, and so I support what you decide to do. I feel that a stop would be best for
Yeah,
Berthoud.
and I think that would probably be the truth. So that, and we probably won't get one. It'd just be best if we don't have to pay for it. I was gonna say something else here too. It's regarding Vantage. Kristen's gone, but Vantage has done such a great job. I hope we can lead this future developments. I don't know if this is their metro or their HOA, but they have dog poop bags everywhere, and it is very handy compared to other developments. I know it's ultimately up to the dog walker, but I was just very impressed with Vantage on that. And I did want to ask about, did we have any updates regarding Hammond trees?
I do not.
And that's all I have right now. Turn it over to staff.
Thank you. Just one thing for me tonight. The reminder that the Berthoud Chamber of Commerce annual gala is on Friday, February 20th. So not this Friday, but next Friday. We sent you information about that. If you do want to attend, we still have some spots. You and a +1 if you'd like to join us. So we do have some trustees that'll be there. It's a good event.
What about this? So say you have spots, empty spots.
Mm-hmm.
What about inviting the future board members?
That's
what the
an
heck?
interesting question.
Not a bad idea.
If you've already paid for the table.
There's no election. I mean, there is an election, but there's no competition coming
Yeah.
up. Oh yeah, there is for 2 or 4, but.
I would assume all 4 trustees will be appointed. I think if the board is okay with that, that's probably fine. We did open it up to, because we do have, I think we have plenty of extra seats right now. We opened it up to department heads as well. So, yeah.
I feel a little bit conflicted about that. Just trying to think as an outsider, I guess, as a voter, how I would feel if I didn't get the chance to vote on someone before they were taking action or acting as an official. Would that be seen as inappropriate?
Well, we were just thinking because they're pretty much guaranteed to get a seat.
Right, and yeah, so they're going to be here. We already know that. We're ready to embrace them, but would the citizens feel like we're preemptively engaging them in town-related stuff before a fair
right?
vote?
They're not making any decisions. They're not taking any. I hate it when there's just empty seats left open, and I thought that would be a good way.
Totally agree.
To,
I just thought about that with the other comments too about onboarding them before the election. It just seems like if I'm a towns member and I haven't had a chance to actively vote on who's taking those seats and they're already acting, that just seems strange to me. But so I'm just going to state that for the record.
I understand that.
I tend to agree with that perception.
Okay. Maybe, Trustee Wing, unless you're incredibly passionate, maybe you look.
No. I just there was another one too,
Yeah.
and half the seats were empty, and it was just
Oh,
like
I agree. The Habitat one.
there was a thing in it's all the businesses. I don't know what it's called, but the Economic Forum, and literally there were 7 empty seats, and I said, "Gosh, I would have liked to have invited this one." Same kind of thing. Anyhow, no skin off my nose. It's fine.
I appreciate it.
And we do intend, right now we have just enough to fill one table. We have 2, and so if we don't get additional responses from department heads or trustees, we're going to give that table back to the chamber to sell as additional tickets. So we get 2 as part of our chamber membership. So
very good.
Yeah. So we're not really paying what we are paying for them, but it's included in the cost of what we negotiate as a chamber membership.
Anything else?
No, that's it for me tonight.
I'd like to introduce and just welcome Attorney Sellers here. Thank you for, on day one, giving me a script and saving me from going off the rails.
Like
so.
part of the family
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
She's going to land that plane, so.
Well, welcome. Very,
Yeah, Kendra and I are both super excited, and we really appreciate the board choosing us, and we really look forward to working with all of you. And staff's been great, and Erin's been great. We've had lots of meetings with her, and we have a big transition meeting this Friday. So
I'm sure you already heard the news, but it was very much unanimous. I mean, both applicants were very qualified, but we were so happy that you guys decided to.
yeah, we're excited. So
Excellent.
You fit in great.
Nothing else? Okay, I'll go ahead and thank you, staff, for staying the night. Chief, do you have an update, please?
Chief's ordering where his meeting pay is, probably.
Yeah, it's like I want to update my compensation.
I just want to take an opportunity to introduce Lieutenant Van Hook to you guys. He is the lieutenant over the White Platoon, so he manages the Berthoud, Wellington, and the Estes Park deputies. So this is him. I'll let him tell you about himself. And
Mayor and trustees, thank you. Good evening. I'll make it short because I know you guys want to get out of here. I'm a native of Larimer County, and I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 34 years. So I've been around for a while and watched the growth. And this is my first opportunity to actually work overseeing or involved in the town of Berthoud. I was a sergeant in Wellington, so I've had opportunity to experience some of the town politics as opposed to the county, and I really look forward to working with you guys. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Where'd you grow up?
Fort Collins.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Fort Collins High School.
All right, on.
One other thing I do is I officiate high school football. So for you football fans,
You're the ref?
I'm
All
an
right.
official. Yep. So
You just talked about town politics. Wait till you call a game that we lose.
yeah, I had the state championship for Wellington, which Wellington they went undefeated, and they run the score up on the championship game. So there wasn't controversy there. So
Oh, I thought they lost.
No, Wellington hammered everybody, including us. So
Yeah, they were tough.
They were really good this year.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Everyone have a good